Hi, everybody. My name is Donna Gorton, and I want to welcome you to my show, Willows. And it's only found on somafusion.com, on also the YouTube channel Soma Fusion, and also in my Facebook group, the Willows Bend. And so I want to welcome everybody to tonight's show. So we're going to be covering a couple of different topics tonight. And hi to everybody in my chat. I see you all. And to you as well, Sandy. Love you. So I'm going to do my circle of protection that I always do. Hi, Sandy, number 2. Here I am, Nancy. Welcome. So let's get this going. Circle of protection / blessing. Plus, I had a new stone tell me that it wanted to come out tonight. So we got that going too. So that needs to be cleansed. All right. So with the sage, I cast a circle of protection around everybody who is viewing or listening, and that we are prevented from any negativity from entering or impacting anything within the show or the group or anyone listening globally. And I want to welcome everybody as well. And may this protection and blessings follow you out into your personal lives, and that no harm or negativity befall you in your personal lives as well. So I will it, so mote it be. With the sage, I cleanse these stones of all energies except for their own, with the hopes that they will work with mine, as well as myself. Can't ever hurt. And to the Kit Kat. I know you guys aren't thrilled with it, but that's okay. Jake won't notice because he's sleeping with his head against my back. There. All right. Good to go, guys. Set that back there. So, you are very welcome, of course. Many of you know in my group anyways, but maybe not online who are listening. Almost 2 weeks ago, I had to have hand surgery done. Still got a handful of stitches. Well, some full of stitches. So, hey, Stacy. Handwriting is still very difficult for me. So, I think the stitches are actually starting to get to the point where they're going to get infected. So I had to pop one of them off today because it was getting nasty looking. But I go tomorrow to get it checked. Hi, Kim. And so hopefully I might get them out tomorrow. We'll see. But because of that and my limitation with handwriting, I'm covering a couple of old topics we haven't done in a while. So the first being the Seth Speaks material. Now, this show was first aired October 21st, 2019. So we're going a little ways back here. I'm sure many of my original members in my group remember it. And if anyone happens to be interested in joining my group, it's on Facebook under the Willows Bend. And I also have a Facebook page called Beyond the Veil. And so I go live in there for readings, because I'm also a psychic medium, amongst other things. That's on Friday nights, 8 p.m. Eastern time. We'll get that one out of the way. And on Sunday nights, 9 p.m., I am a guest host for Goddesses and Devils. We just had a mega long show last night. Holy cow, that one went for like 5 hours. That was incredible. So how you doing, Ken? Hopefully well. So let me give you some background history for those who are new to this stuff. Now, my sis Stacy first introduced me to the Seth Speaks material last year, well, 2 years ago now, actually 2019, as a potential topic. And at the time, I hadn't never heard of it. So she sent me a whole ton of links. Yes, isn't that handy, Nancy? Because I'm moderately deaf on both sides myself. So I like that when I'm watching a show as well. Yeah, it was, Chris, and I'm glad you made it. So, yeah, so Seth Speaks. You did come in just in time, lady. So the Seth Speaks material, it originated back in the 70s through a woman named Jane Roberts and her husband. Now, neither have any gifts of any kind, and they they were playing around with the Ouija board. I know many people have this massive fear of Ouija boards, but if you follow the rules of them and you are careful, for one, and you know what you're doing, for two, then they're not a bad thing. It's just another tool to communicate with, and that's all. So they were messing around with this, and a being who called themselves Seth came through. Now, Seth is technically a collection of soul beings of about 1,200 who are, hi Ronnie, how are you, gorgeous? Who are teachers on the other side. And so they started channeling through Jane with her permission to give her all this information about dealing about the validity of the soul and how it all works, in order to teach us other humans about it. And so she started doing weekly shows, or bi-weekly shows, sorry, to groups of live people, because again, this is back in the 70s before the whole technology thing came out. And her husband used to transcribe the whole thing verbatim and then type it up. So by the time they got done, they had over 6,000 typewritten pages of notes from material that Seth had brought through and things he talked about. So so basically he kind of introduced her to and psychically initiated her. Now there are, never had problems with it, but have gotten hate for mentioning it. Hate for mentioning what, Nancy? Unless I missed a comment up above. I don't think I did, though. Hate for mentioning closed captioning. So I guess it started with when he first came through with her in 1963. Now there are live YouTube videos that people can, okay, the Ouija board. Yeah, again, if you follow the rules of them, it is no different than using a recorder for EVPs or a pendulum or anything else. There's, you got to know what you're doing. But if you do, they're safe. But there's such a fear instilled in people through religious beliefs or whatever for Ouija boards. But yeah, it's a French word. And I think it means see. No, that's Claire in French. Jeez, I knew the meaning of it at one point. But anyway, I know what you mean now. The board, I get you. So she really called the stuff that was channeling through her from Seth, her psychic initiation. And she said, quote, "Suddenly, my consciousness left my body. My mind was barraged with ideas that were astounding and new to me at the time," end quote. And she'd never experienced channeling before. Now, hey, beautiful Tanya. Now, as someone who has gifts also, it's only been a few times where channeling has happened to me unexpectedly, where after it was done, I mean, it really is like a pushing aside of your consciousness. Oh, no worries, Nancy. It's Ouija is how you spell Ouija. And who did I miss saying hi to? Came in? Karen. Hi, beautiful. So there are live videos of her doing this in her bi-weekly sessions that she would do in front of her groups of people who followed her. Not a ton of people, probably 20 to 30 people would be in the room. And I mean, everything about her would shift and change, from her tone of her voice, her accent. She would take on I would call it kind of a Middle Eastern European accent. And her posture would change, her tone, her volume, everything about her changed. I have seen them, and it's quite difficult to see. Plus, Uija. Yeah, I can't spell out of my head. I'm a really good speller, but writing it is how I figure out things. Hey, sweetheart. I see you, Erin. So, she basically, like, I have done channeling before and people misuse the word today. People use it to have any kind of soul being communication. It really isn't that. Actual technical channeling is where your consciousness kind of gets pushed aside and they talk through you. And I know times it's happened to me without my knowledge until after the fact. Like you're not there. I mean, I have no memory of what got said, and somebody else has to explain to me what I said because I just don't remember any of it. So it is a thing. And I guess depending on the soul being, they can decide to let you stay partially aware and remember what gets said. And they kind of will use your words to vocalize things with, which I have experienced that, which is a strange sensation as well, where they're kind of accessing your vocabulary data banks of your head. Very, very bizarre feeling, but I can say is I've experienced it and it's odd. So going forward from there, so after that experience, Jane Roberts with her husband Robert Butz, Butz, started to research psychic activity and planned on writing a book. And following that, they started experimenting, like I said, with the Ouija board. And after a few times, that's when Seth had come through. And neither had, again, any psychic gifts whatsoever. And that they kind of thought these messages were coming from, Robert thought they were coming from Jane's subconscious mind. Augusta. Did I miss seeing an Augusta? I know that when I first logged in on my tablet tonight, Sandy, there were like 5 members waiting. I was like, where'd they come from all? Wow. I mean, welcome everybody. To anybody new who's watching or listening to me for the first time, happy to have you on board. So basically, neither had any psychic gifts whatsoever. And soon she felt compelled to speak the messages out loud that she was getting. And again, like she didn't know what it was and how to explain it because she never experienced anything like this before. And again, no psychic gifts to speak of. So within a month, the Ouija board became unnecessary, and she was easily able to pass into a trance state and began speaking for Seth. And oh, sorry, okay, I got it wrong on how often they happen. Oh, there you are, Augusta. Well, welcome. Happy to have you on board. Yeah, we do this every Monday night, 8 o'clock Eastern time. So, and there's always stuff happening in here besides that. And the Goddesses and Devils show that I also co-host with Amanda McManus and Katie. Sorry, stitch pull. Sorry, just lost my train of thought. Katie Kamara. That also airs Sunday night at 9 p.m. Sorry, guys. I just yanked my stitches hard and I'm okay. I'm good. So, anyways, welcome. We'll get this one and going in the right direction. I'm so used to speaking about this material just off the top of my head versus following my notes on it anymore because I have read the book myself. I've seen all the videos. Yeah, I know, Nancy. They're swollen because I don't react well to stitches after like a week, so they start to get inflamed and they need to kind of come out. And they don't like just dissolve like they're supposed to for me. They may partially, but not completely. So I'm okay. Plus, the way I have it been a bandage to give me a little bit more mobility, there's no pad there. So, whatever, I'll be okay. Katie is a complete sweetheart, Erin, absolutely. Shout out to Katie. Katie is the owner and operator of Soma Fusion. She is the queen of our family. So she kind of gets us out there on the air and also co-hosts the Goddesses and Devils show too. So she rocks.
Do I need to say hello to everybody? Hi, everybody.
I think you should.
We had great fun last night.
That was her. We did have a great show last night. Absolutely. I can't believe it went 5 hours.
Yeah, that's not normal. I think we broke a Goddesses and Devils record, and we had over 1,100 people commenting. So that was a huge show in my
Wow.
books.
Oh yeah, no, definitely. And I was, like I said, I'm glad that, we decided on that topic. It's funny because we were kind of tossed up on what to do for a topic, and I suggested a couple things, and she's like, "Oh, I don't know, pick one." And I'm like, "I don't know." And I said, "Let's flip a coin." So I literally flipped a coin, and that was what we went with was the gender identity and gender roles stuff. So coin tosses can help.
Yeah, and believe it or not, for
Thank you.
that for last night's show, I had some notes in that already, but they every single one of those notes went out the door. I didn't actually use any notes last night whatsoever.
I haven't yet since I've been filling in for Amanda, or helping fill in for Amanda. She hasn't totally left yet, but um, that was the original goal, was that I was supposed to fill in for her. I haven't had any notes handy because I just kind of wing it based on knowledge
Hmm.
and personal experiences with the topic, and so yeah. Hi, Gina. Well, that's okay, Nancy. The replay is in the group, so anybody interested is happy to help themselves to watching it.
And there
It's
are there are replays over. If you go over to the Soma
right.
Fusion,
You
me-
can go over to
um,
summerfusion.com or onto the YouTube channel, and then you can subscribe, please, and share it out. It's all in there. You had another nosebleed. I get worried about those with you, Sandy. Yeah, no, like I said, I mean, it lasted all night. I mean, we went to like 2 o'clock in the morning. So yeah, and we touched on like the religious side of things and everything else. So just kind of meandered after the two errands came on board. So back to the topic. We'll get on that again. So let's see, find where we left off in the notes. Okay, so within a month, the Ouija board became unnecessary for Jane Roberts to be able to get into a trance state and began speaking for Seth in twice weekly sessions that were recorded and equal more than 6,000 typewritten pages worth of material that were brought through in all those sessions. And flip, flip, flip. It's from those pages that Jane Roberts compiled a book called The Seth Material. Then in 1977, Seth announced that he'd be dictating a book of his own. So in the book, he talks about how it's a little worse this time. Well, go to the doctor, Sandy. I know you don't like them, but sometimes it's good to get something checked out. Aaron says, "Yes, I'm so honored to be asked to come on as a special guest. Thank you for having me, and thank you to everyone who watched. Thank you for coming on, son." So, and for those who don't know or are new to listening to me, watching me, whichever, Aaron Brody, he's kind of adopted me as his mom. So he's not biologically my son. I'm not actually that much older than him, but it's all right. It works. So, Seth had announced that he wanted to write his own book, and he wanted to come through Jane in order to basically use her body to type up the words for him as he dictated it. And she had to agree, of course. And he kind of explained in the book how he managed to accomplish that. So the name that Seth gave his book was to be The Seth Speaks, The Eternal Validity of the Soul. And in his book, he covers such aspects as the multidimensionality and consciousness of the soul, death and after death experiences. He touches on reincarnation, and Christ and his crucifixion, dreams, the second coming. He talked about the nature of God, the rise and fall of civilizations that preceded Atlantis, and how a brotherhood of spirits have preserved the knowledge of humankind. You're welcome anytime you want to, Erin. We told you that last night, honey. Anybody at any time, by the way, are welcome to call in. The phone number is listed on the post, which is area code 929-436-2866. And the meeting ID number that you have to enter when you're prompted to is 522-657-2748. And that's for anybody who's listening on the radio around the world, which just amazes me that it goes out around the world now. I think that's awesome. So he covers also like how, oh my goodness, even some aspects of different dimensions that exist out there, how that all works, how it works to be a spirit guide, all of those things. Yeah, I know. I'm hoping you guys can see it on your screen within the group. I see it from I'm in Willow's bed chat right now. I have a separate tablet, is where I'm watching y'all. Oops, I just kicked it closed. Shoot. There we go. There you all are, and there I am. So there is a line listed below the picture of the show that has all the phone numbers and stuff on it. If anyone happens to want to call in, they're welcome to, or has any knowledge of these topics. I'm happy to, after I present it, to discuss it with anybody. So he also brought in his views of the history of prophets and with some of the messages. And Seth speaks of himself and that he doesn't like the name spirit or ghost for soul beings. And he said that we define a being without a body if that's how we have to, if we have to give it a label, basically, that spirit is better than ghost, or as again, not crazy about spirit, he'll settle for spirit, but he doesn't like it. So I use soul being most of the time. Yeah, so Sandy can see it as well, so I can see it as well, so we're good. I'm just making sure my battery is okay on the other tablet. So Seth said that he refers to Jane as a him, and that Rupert was the name that he knew Jane by from a past life, that they had many lifetimes together through reincarnation, but Rupert was the last one that she lived, and that's the last name that he was most comfortable with, of that personality, I guess. So he always called Jane Rupert. So that's who he knew her as before. And Seth said that his environment isn't one you'd find yourself in immediately after dying, but you must die several times before you enter that existence. And he has actually been taught how to be a spirit guide as well. Karen's back, waiting to sign out of work. Okay, well, welcome back. So Seth stated that as far as reincarnation, we exist in multiple lives simultaneously in a multiple different dimensions, and that we're so wrapped up in all the dramas of our own creation that we can't see the other lifetimes that are happening at the same time, only the one we're in now. Now, I've used the analogy of, and I've done the drawing before, that if you picture it as like a octopus, and that the body of the octopus has, the brain, the nervous system, the eyes, all that stuff, but 8 different arms that can all act independently of each other, but they're still connected to the body of the octopus, right? So if you imagine the body of the octopus as the main body of the soul that's on the other side of the veil, that except instead of only 8 arms, picture 1,200 arms, whatever, and they're all living different lifetimes, different places, at different timelines, but we're only aware of the one we're in, is how he explained it. Now, before I go any further with this stuff, I gotta say that when I first encountered and started delving into this material, so much of what was presented really, really, really resonated with me as truth. and also validated my own experiences with my gifts, as well as um, validated, but then lit another light bulb to say, okay, so if this is like this, what about this? And it led to, then later on, he would kind of answer that question in the material. So it was just this constant stream of the validity of the soul. So it kind of like, it fit the title for me. Oh, absolutely, Sandy. Just, that's amazing to think of lots of different lives at different times. It is true. And so when we see a past life, um, it's literally is one we have existed in before. And some people, sometimes some of that stuff does get carried into our current existence. So, for example, there was one that I viewed that I had with somebody, like for myself. If I have a connection to somebody and I recognize them as a member of my soul family, then I'm able to see that past life that we lived in because they're connected to me. And so I can see that lifetime. And so, for example, if it was a drowning death that broke that connection, then that person went, and after we got done doing the reading, we're like, oh my God, they got really quiet. And I said, well, what's the matter? And they said, I have always been, I can't swim. I'm terrified of water. I can't swim. I can't be out on a boat. I can't do anything. Like, I can't handle water. And I said, you can't handle it? She said, I can't even go near a body of water because I'm terrified of it. And I've never known why. And that makes total sense. She drowned in the past life. So let's see. Chris says, I wonder if one of the arms thinks it's the main soul. I don't think so. At least, I mean, it depends on how aware you are of how things work on the other side. Okay, Karen. I have seen ours, Tanya, correct. So we all are cheaters in a sense. How so, Ronnie? Beautiful Amanda. And I've also seen what it was with Aaron and with Stacy. There's a handful of you in there that I have that connection with, that I've done that kind of a reading for. Now, when it comes to doing a reading for someone I don't have that connection with, I get told that's not for me to see. And if I got to say, the first time that happened, I got startled out of the session because I wasn't expecting to hear it, because the person I was looking for was someone very, very close to me. And this, in my experience anyway, this old lady who was dressed in, I would call it like a Victorian lace high collared dress, but she looked like there was almost a veil of lace or something between her and I, but she appeared very suddenly and said very sternly, that is not for you to see. Oh, okay, my bad. Sorry, I'm out. And I jumped out because it scared me. I wasn't expecting it. And so, I just was like, whoops. And anytime I've tried to see if that's changed for me over the years, I've experienced the same thing, that, why are you bothering to try? You know that you're not supposed to see that. So because sometimes gifts evolve and you never know when it might open up a little bit more. So I still try once in a while just to see, but I so far have gotten the same message every time. Ronnie says, many lives at the same time with different relationships. Yeah, sometimes. Yep, among others, Aaron. So, I have to have a soul connection. And it's one of those things, a soul connection or soul family member, you feel it almost immediately with someone that you meet, where you're instantaneously comfortable with them and you can't really explain why. Like, you talk to them for 10 minutes and you walk away saying, oh my God, I just made a new best friend. But then logic kicks in and you're like, oh wait, that doesn't make sense. I just met them. I don't even know them. Why would I be so comfortable with them? And most people don't have the answer to that, but that is the answer. Like, you've had past experiences with them in other lifetimes. And it's by the same token, You can have a negative experience with someone in a past life to where when you encounter them, you are completely uncomfortable with them as soon as you meet them. And there's no valid reason why. Like, you've never had any bad experiences in the here and now with them to justify why you feel like freaked out by them, but you instantly take a step back and keeps between you at all times from them, and you just don't ever fully trust them, and you're not ever comfortable around them. Same thing. It's a past life connection. Yes, just like you and I, Ronnie, absolutely. It's like having the knowing of their energy. It is, absolutely, Stacy. It's recognizing how you feel towards that other person, good or bad. And when we get that, that is a member of our soul family or a past life person we've had an encounter with for whatever reason, that your soul is recognizing their soul and being like, I see you. It can be in a good way, like, hey, where you been? I've been waiting to hook up with you. Or there you are. And you're like, whoa, all right, back up, back up. You just don't want anything to do with them because they just put you on guard. So it can go either way, but the good ones are, from my experience and my awareness, they are people who you kind of agree on the other side that you will have each lifetime you kind of create a connection that will happen to where your paths will cross with that person. Now, it's not always going to be the same relationship every time. There are those that can always be sisters or best friends, that type of role. Sometimes it's mother-child. Sometimes it's husband-wife. Sometimes it's brother-sister. I mean, it can vary what relationship you have. But, yeah, the only ones I won't look at that I sense are past life spouses, because I already sense that attraction to the person that there is no explanation for in the here and now. But if I look at the details, I re-experience the emotions connected to it, and that's what I bring back here. And it's usually not meant to be that now. Like, circumstances and stuff make it play out that way. So, like, if I look, then I fall head over heels for them, and it's usually not appropriate in the structure of the existing relationship now. So I don't look at those. Yes, I had that with people. You hate their guts and you don't know why. Well, basically, yes. So, you have to trust that when you get that there's a reason for it. And just kind of watch your back just in case. But, you don't have to disassociate from them, but you just kind of are more on guard with those types of people that you feel that vibe from. But those that are drawn to, you tend to keep coming back in some incarnation to where your paths will cross and you'll reconnect. And it's also wonderful because it's a unconditional, loving, supportive relationship that you have from them, that no matter what, they're going to have your back. And like Stacy, Amanda, Aaron, Chris Stokes, who else is there? Ronnie, Tanya, all those people I've had that with, and like, we're family. And my personal life, I've disconnected from everybody in my personal life. And so you guys are my family, and I count you as such. And it doesn't matter if you live in close proximity to each other or not. A bunch of time can go by before you talk, and then you pick up where you left off whenever you do get to talk. And it's just and for some people, it's the first time they may have experienced that unconditional loving relationship. Sandy says, I seldom feel a good vibe with anyone I first meet, but you did with me. But I think that we probably are soul family too, Sandy. Just saying. I mean, I know you told me why you were drawn to me, but it doesn't mean there also wasn't a past life thing there too. Because I've always had that vibe towards you with stuff, even though we've never looked at the details of it, but I think it's there. Just saying. And again, it's not going to be with everyone you meet. but there are just certain individuals. And what I've noticed too, from my own experience and talking to others too, that the further you go along your own spiritual path, the more those people make themselves known to you. They kind of find you, and it almost becomes a constant stream where people are having that kind of a connection to you, to where you do end up surrounded. It is very much a family vibe with them. I wouldn't trade it for the world, I know that, and it was really the first time I felt complete unconditional love in a family environment from people. So I wouldn't trade it for anything, that's for sure. So anyhow, back to the material. The Seth Speaks material for me definitely resonated as truth for the most of it, and or validated experiences I've had as well with my gifts and how they work and what they create, what I've seen, what I've encountered, etc. So I find it valid. It's going to be a personal choice, of course, depending on your own path and stuff. Amanda says, I'm nice until you give me a reason not to, but I tend to keep many at arm's length. However, I've met several that I got an instantaneous connection. Yeah, absolutely. No, I wouldn't trade it either, Chris. It is awesome. Yes, and that's a lot of you are in my Willows Bend group, which is family in here. So, Tanya just said, I love our Willows Bend family, and it really is a family in there of people. And, my group has been going for 6 years now, and I've been doing the show for about 2.5 years. So, yeah, it's been a long time. Absolutely, Marianne. So, let's see. Seth states, quote, entities or souls send out portions of themselves, and a development of an inner awareness gives them a source of energy and strength, end quote. And he likened our lifetimes as being actions in a play, but that there's multiple plays going on at once, which makes sense if you're having multiple lifetimes in other places, right? I love that shade of purple, Katie, by the way. Aaron says, you couldn't pay me $1 million to separate myself from you guys. Now 2 million, maybe. No, just kidding. 2.5, and it's a deal, right, Aaron? So he went on to say that you can use your inner senses and perceive reality as it exists apart from the play and your role in it. And so what I'm going to do is, so when I very first presented this material, I hadn't actually read the book yet. So the excerpts that I have in my notes are from the actual website about the book and the material. And then after the fact, because there wasn't time to read it prior to the show, because it takes time to, I have vision issues, and so I can't read for extensive periods of time. And the audio book, there is an audio book on YouTube. However, whoever narrates it, it's like a computerized British voice of an old man, and it messes up all the time simple words, and it's very monotonous and hard to listen to for extended periods of time. But so that's what I use to get through the book. But it took me several months to do it, because it gets droney, and if my energy wasn't there, then I couldn't keep my attention focused on it. So, but I did, just in talking with Chris Stokes in the group today or yesterday, I just finally said, to heck with it, I'm just going to buy the book, because I talk about it all the time, I reference it all the time, so it'd be a good book to have. So I did just break down and buy it, so it will be coming, but that's a whole aside. But I want to get back to that at the end of the show as a suggestion for everybody. That would be awesome, Marianne. So how I'm gonna handle this stuff is, Karen says, the audiobook kills me. I kept trying in little bursts. That's how I had to do it to get through it, because I couldn't handle it for extensive periods, or if I was tired at all, forget it. Hi, beautiful Faith. Exactly. I would get drifty dozy, my attention would wander, and it was just hard to listen to because it was just a terrible voice to have narrating it. And I know it was a computer voice, but they could have picked better. So in on okay, so in my notes, the way I have it written out is what does Seth say about different topics? And so I'm going to use that coupled with that which I remember from the book, in addition to my own experiences that may validate what he's referencing. So you guys know how I'm going to handle that stuff. Hey, Annette. Welcome, sis. So Seth he went on to talk about sleep and dreams. It was very monotonous, yes, and absolutely, Nancy. It was like very drony. So Seth felt that several short naps a day would be more effective than sleeping for extensive periods of time. It is a good book to listen to crash you out. Yeah, absolutely, Karen. So he said basically sleeping in shorter nap cycles of 2 to 3 hours are really all we need to get by on that. The longer you sleep in a bigger chunk of time, that it's like your soul. So he goes on to talk about in the book how your soul travels during dream time, and that is, I think, true, because I've had many experiences in there that are not my atypical dreaming about a stressful day or whatever. Hi, Mary. And if the longer periods of time that we're sleeping for, it's like your soul is outside of the body for too long. And he goes on to explain how that's kind of why when you wake up, even after sleeping like 10 hours or something, that you are still like exhausted and loogy all day, no matter how much caffeine you have, is that you got too much sleep. So, and like your soul was away from your body for too long, and it's having trouble integrating back in to your body because you slept too long. So he said that it would taking several short naps a day would increase and have a better sleep experience for extended periods. Sorry you got sent home sick, Gina. So he said dreams aren't anything that's more hallucinating than physical life is, that we are the dreamers, the waking physical self. So he kind of likened it to, in our waking life, that's more like a dream is than what's happening as our soul selves. You have no issue sleeping 16 hours. Yeah, but your soul's traveling during that. So when you get up from that 16 hours of sleep, though, Karen, are you like real draggy? Out of curiosity, I know I am. And I know most people are. That's why you head for the coffee or, whatever you use to help yourself wake up from. You really are refreshed? Wow, well, maybe your soul is different and doesn't travel as far. I don't know. So he went on to say that you can use your inner senses to perceive reality as it exists apart from what's going on here from the other side, and that our daily experiences are the dreams it dreams, our soul dreams. So when looking at our dream selves, we take for granted that your quote reality is real, and its reality is an illusion. So in other words, we see our conscious waking life as the reality, and our dreaming selves as a hallucination and just made up stuff. And he said it's actually more the reverse, that in dream time we are our true selves and our true forms, versus what happens in our everyday waking conscious life, that's more the illusion part, because it's a created reality. So as a soul being, you are in your true form. Energy, it doesn't ever die. It can't be stopped. It just changes forms, right? So that is what it is with when you're dreaming, is your soul takes over and goes and does its thing. Karen says, every Saturday I get to sleep and I'm usually having parties with the deceased. Hey, I mean, we know that you operate differently on many different ways, Karen. So that may be one of them that where you differ from other people on. But the average person, the more they sleep, the more draggy they are. So, and have a harder time like waking up and getting moving for the day. And they're just usually draggy all day. So he goes on to talk about the topic of death. So he says that, quote, if you want to know what death is like, then become aware of your own consciousness as it's divorced from physical activity. You'll find that it's highly active. With practice, you'll discover that your normal waking consciousness is highly limited, and what you thought of once as death conditions seem more like life conditions. So, in other words, that, you know, what we experience in our waking, again, our conscious daily lives is really not all that it is on the other side, and that as in our death conditions, as we are crossing over, that's when we're starting to take on our soul being self and starting to see the difference of the two realities. And on reincarnational relationships, he says that throughout reincarnated experiences, that you expand your consciousness, your ideas, your values, and your perceptions. He said if you don't choose to be spiritually and physically flexible, rigid ideas will seem like trying to read my own writing, looks like lashes. And many of our ideas of good and evil are very distortive and shallow and shadow, and everyone and anyone understands. We have about the nature of reality, and we attract like-minded people to us through our reality. He goes on to say that someone well-known once said, turn the other cheek if you are attacked, and that the original meaning of that remark should be understood, that you should turn the other cheek because you realize the attacker is only attacking themselves. And I'm sure many people have heard that saying before, and that is really what, you know, the person who's lashing out at you is really lashing out at themselves, that they're kind of putting out their own self-hatred or self-loathing or whatever it is about themselves they don't like, that they're putting to you in lashing out at you. So, and he says, so as far as reincarnation relationships go, exactly, tongue twister, and I get tongue-tied enough on my own. So he says, as far as reincarnated relationships go, that if we hate another person, that hate may bind you to them through many lifetimes as you allow the hate to consume you. Aaron, remember, listen to this part. He felt that by looking at those around us, from friends, etc., we can tell what kind of person we are. And if we're not happy with what we find, then we'd better start making changes within ourselves. He said, quote, to die with hatred for any cause or people or for any reason is a great disadvantage. Only true compassion and love will lead to an understanding of nature of good, and only these qualities will serve to annihilate the erroneous and distortive concept. Hate is a strong word. So in other words, he's saying that if you when you die, if you hate anybody and you've allowed that hate to grow within you and consume you, that you will carry it with you, and that hatred towards that person almost bind you to them for several lifetimes until you learn to let it go and release it so that it's not consuming you anymore. So it's better to not get to that point of hating someone. Now, it's fine if you don't like somebody. Now, that's normal. Everybody doesn't like everybody, and not everyone's going to place together. That's kind of a given. It happens. But when you truly get to a point where you hate someone, yeah, that is actually going to have the opposite effect to bind you to them for several lifetimes, where you're going to be stuck with it until you learn to let it go. And that you can, and I agree with this, that you can judge what kind of person you are by who you're surrounded by. So if you're surrounded by a lot of negative people and going nowhere fast people, and you're just, running in place kind of people, then that is what kind of a person you really are inside, because those that we surround ourselves with are kind of an extension of us, is what he's talking about. No, you don't want that, Aaron. Gonna have to see my brothers again. No. Exactly. So it's better to let it go, Karen, so that you aren't bound to them. There have been more than one person in my life I could have ended up absolutely hating with a passion. However, I released it to the point where they're a non-person to me anymore, to where I really have no more feeling towards them than a stranger on the streets. I don't carry it with me. So Seth goes on to talk about God. And he says, quote, God can only be experienced in you experience him whether or not you realize it through your own existence. He's not male nor female, however. In the most inescapable truth, he is not human in your terms at all, nor in our terms is he a personality. Your ideas of the personality are too limited to contain the multitudinous facets of his multidimensional existence. So the idea of God and the energy of God is so expansive, our limited human brains can't really process it all, is essentially what that breaks down to. And he went on to say that the soul is not a finished product, but a process of becoming. Now, you guys hear me say this kind of all the time, that, the whole purpose, that it's an ongoing process of learning and growing and evolving. And that's always the goal of a soul being, is to continue evolving, right? So, I can say that through that information, that all validates my experiences with the other side, my knowledge of how things as a soul being work, and validated what I suspected with other things as well. So it kind of spoke truth. Now, there is a website, if you happen to want more information about this stuff, called seth-speaks.com. And again, that has a lot of excerpts from the book and his different thoughts and values. Now, the following week in the group back then in 2019, we made it a part 2 because there was so much material. So I'm going to kind of segue into that and then cover the teachings of Michael and explain all that stuff out. And if there's time, we'll talk about Abraham Hicks as well. Karen says, I can't let it go. Wish I could. I accept it. Maybe they'll be better humans next time. Well, I mean, if that's the best you think you can do, then I'm not here to tell you one way or the other, because I don't know your reasoning for eating them. So Tanya says, sure don't be bound to that hateful woman who would get mad at me and put Bible quotes on my desk. Yeah, probably not. Marianne says, I never use hate as well as people are bad. No, what they do is bad, not the person. Essentially, yes. Yes, that's a good way to look at it, because, we don't like their behavior. They themselves as a soul being is not bad. It's just that and if you understand the idea of a soul contract too, that we create a soul contract, which is kind of a blueprint for the life that we're next going to be born into. And we design it to contain everything from what personality we're going to have in the next life, whether we're going to be, I don't know, things like, we're going to get in more into that, into the teachings of Michael, but say a leader or an artist or a poet, whatever. You choose all those facets of a personality in addition to how you process information, and you set up the challenges you're going to face in your next life. They're there to teach you a lesson, and you kind of wipe the memory clean before coming back into it, because if you had the knowledge, full knowledge of the other side in your next life, well, that would kind of negate the reason for coming through again, because you'd already know it. So what's the point? You're not going to learn anything about it unless you experience it fully. Stacy said, I can forgive people, but I will not forget what they did. No, and there's nothing wrong with not forgetting it. Like Hitler's soul contract, absolutely, Ronnie. Hitler, the world needed to change, and that was the engine that caused that change. But he himself, as a soul being, is not a bad being. And Aaron says, okay, I'll just start letting everyone who's ever wronged me go and wish them on their way, but that's it. Anything else further than that would be fake. Essentially, just, wish them well. You don't have to like them. You don't have to get along with them, but to keep hatred and hold on to it, it's gonna bind you to them, that you're gonna keep having them on your path in your next life and your next life until you can resolve it and release it. It's really bad. I don't want to hate life. Yeah, no, it is. And I understand, Karen. I mean, any type of abuse a human can experience, I've been through pretty much. And so, I get it. And it is hard to let any of that go and heal from it. And, forgiveness isn't, if you look up the word forgiveness in the dictionary, forgiveness is not making what someone did okay or otherwise. It simply means releasing the anger you have towards that person, so you're not carrying it anymore. That's it. It has nothing to do with forgetting what they did or otherwise. It's just releasing that anger or pain so you're not hanging on to it. That's all forgiveness means. Right. Forgive and let go. Yep. Send them on their way with love and light. And that asks, so is it different if you can't completely forgive someone who has done horrible things to you, but you don't hate them? You almost pity them? Okay, so in one soul contract, Annette, you set up what you're going to have happen to you in big life lessons and things in this next life that you're going to be born into, right? You with me? If someone is going to be doing something to you in this life, they have to agree to play that part for you in your life that you're making. So in putting that lifetime together, you're asking somebody else to play that part for you to have those things happen in your life. So, for example, in the car accidents in my life that caused the physical condition my body is in, the people who caused them and are to blame for them, I created that to happen on the other side, to happen in this lifetime, and asked them to be the role of the drivers, because there were lessons for me to learn from those situations. Does that make sense? Or even the abuse I've been through, I would have had to have asked that person to play the role of the abuser in my life, because there were things I could learn from those experiences. And I know a lot of people who are kind of like, well, I don't know what I can take from that. What lessons do I to learn? You know what? It taught you how strong you are. It taught you that you have more resiliency than you knew you had, or it taught you about, getting on with your life anyway. I mean, it's up to you to determine the lessons, but it's about turning it around in a moment of, what is this here to teach me? Not for me, why me? Does that make sense in that? Karen said, if I saw them about to be hit by a car, I wouldn't warn them, but I let them go. Well, that would be your choice to make. Ronnie says, like Jay and I agreeing that he would die first before he came here. Yes, Ronnie. And, you both knew of that plan and you guys are connected on the other side. And so it was because there were lessons in his death for him to learn and for you. And it is teaching you that you're stronger than you thought you were. They're playing those roles, had lessons to learn too. Exactly, Tanya. They are gaining from the experiences of being in those positions for themselves also, and hence them agreeing to that for their lifetime, that there's lessons in those experiences that they can take away from it to help them evolve. And so it's not just a one-sided thing in a creation of a soul contract, but even with the topic, someone mentioned Hitler, everybody that he was responsible for their death would have had to agree to be the victim of Hitler's, in order to aid in the shifting of humanity in a new direction. So there were lessons for both sides. And it says, it definitely made me stronger and to refuse to put myself in that circumstance. Right. So there are good things that can come from the traumas we go through in our lives, but you arrange for that in the soul contract. Everything happens for a reason, hurts a lot, but we learn exactly what are you going to learn better from? Think about this. Are you going to learn better just from someone giving you the answer, or are you going to learn by experiencing it? I say experiencing is going to teach you better and bigger lessons than someone just telling you something. That's going to go in one ear and out the other. You may think about it for a few moments and then you're like, oh, okay, curiosity satisfied, I'm on my way. And you're not gaining anything or learning something from it. I had this discussion with Chris last night or yesterday regarding, the stuff about somebody giving you that information that, you're not growing from that. You're just kind of more like satisfying a curiosity you may have on a topic, but you're not learning anything that's going to help you evolve. So by going through an experience, you are going to grow. Next lifetime, it is his turn. Yep. I have an issue with accepting to do horrendous things before we come here. Hitler still accepted it, was on board. Yes, because it was for the greater good of humanity that humanity had to shift. And he was the catalyst that led to that shifting. And it's perfectly okay to dislike people, Nancy. Even he talks about that in his book as well, about disliking people that as a soul being, and you don't have to fake it on the other side. You don't like someone, they communicate through emotions and telepathy and things like that. So because they don't have a body that has vocal cords anymore, obviously. So it's just known when you don't like someone, and you're not going to fake it anymore and play nice just for the sake of playing nice. And it says, so I guess I've started to forgive but won't forget, because I do feel sorry for someone who will never experience love. That's only their lesson in this lifetime in that. And how can someone learn about experiencing love unless they experience the absence of love? So everything bad we experience now is because we set it up that way so our soul could learn a certain lesson. The bigger things, yes, Aaron, not the tiny minor things that, are just part of life, but the bigger things that we experience, the challenges that really challenge us emotionally and mentally and spiritually. Those are meant to have lessons, yes. Karen says, I use the word loathe. It just sounds badass. I love you, Karen. She's funny. Okay, so when the original show was presented, we agreed to do a part 2 in order to cover it all. Now we're up to, about episode 120 now, and this is covered back in episode 51. So we're going a little ways back. Tanya said, so how should we feel when someone does something horrific? Thankful for the lessons? No, it's not being thankful for the lessons. It is seeing what the lessons are. Does that make sense, sis? So instead of thinking about residing in victim consciousness over something. It's about turning it around and saying, what is this here to teach me? And to be able to recognize the lesson separate from the horror, because even in the most horrific things, there are still things we can learn from that. Hi, James and Brenda. Recently, Jay's let me know how much she dislikes Dawn, my childhood ex-friend from the other side. Well, there you go. Nancy said, I won't mistreat anyone either. I just won't have anything to do with them. Exactly. How you guys doing? So James and Brenda are Amanda and Stacy and Faith's parents, who kind of adopted me into the family as well. So they're kind of like my adopted mom and dad. See, it's all one big family. My chat just jumped. Hi, Lori. Karen says, this gave me the most hilarious, messed up mental image. I don't doubt that. Aaron says, so what happens if we don't get the lesson in this life? Do we keep repeating it until the next life and over until we do? Essentially, yes, Aaron. So if you don't learn a lesson that you set out for yourself to learn, yeah, you're going to put it into the next lifetime. So really, what we accomplish in this lifetime with learning those lessons and all that stuff, it really is impacting our next lifetime. So it's something to consider in how you conduct yourself, that you're impacting it with every decision we make in the now moment is going to impact the next life, or could. Welcome back, Lori. Okay, so like I said, when we originally presented the topic, we went into a part 2 the following week. So I'm going to kind of, pick up from that and slide right back into it. So to my notes say, to recap last week's episode, Seth is a multidimensional being who began speaking through Jane Roberts, who was a woman with no psychic gifts, and went on to want to write his own book. Seth Speaks, The Eternal Validity of the Soul was the book. Nope, that's okay that you're a little late. You can always watch the replay for any part you missed. So Seth has said, quote, basically, you're not more of a physical being than I am, and I have doned and discarded more bodies than I care to tell, and I am quite independent of a physical image, and so are you, end quote. He goes on to talk about our personality, and that it's only because we're so wrapped up in our daily matters that we miss being the small portion of ourselves that our powers are far superior to those shown by our ordinary self. And we've each lived other existences, and how that knowledge is within us despite us not being consciously aware of it. So, for example, to remember our past lives, that information, we all can tap into that. It's usually people's fear or lack of understanding that keeps them from tuning in and seeing them. So something to consider, but we do have them. Thank you, Gina. Yeah, this is what it looks like down and washed, scrunched, and allowed to flop. I will not put you in the corner, but the corner can be fun and have a party going on. Yeah, Karen's saying the bar's in the corner, though. Well, sometimes people can get a dunce hat, depending on how they're behaving. But it used to be a running joke in here that if you were late to the show, go in the corner. But then Karen, it became added to the joke of creating a party in the corner so that it really wasn't a bad place to be if you came in late, because I don't get upset. We experience good things in this life over and over for our next life. Can repeat that too, even if we learn the lesson. No, if you've learned the lesson, then mission accomplished, Aaron. So in your next life, you're going to go on to create new lessons to learn. Thank you, Gina, who's complimenting me on my hair, for those who are listening. Yeah, I don't wear it down regularly because I don't like it falling in my face, and like the side pieces always do. So So Seth hoped that by telling us all that he did, it would release our deeply intuitive sides within each of us and bring forward the consciousness. And he spoke to all, despite differences in socioeconomic classes, despite your religious beliefs, skeptics being, it didn't matter to him like what your religious beliefs were, whether you're a skeptic or not, a scientific person or not. It spoke to everybody. So this knowledge was to help everybody gain a greater understanding of ourselves in this lifetime that we're living, so that we can learn from it, grow from it, and perhaps even learn some things in this life to make this life easier to understand as we make our way through it. Yeah, just as a heads up, he's probably going to need to go out. I could not get him to move after my shower to take him out earlier, so he may have to go out soon, FYI. Are you needing to go out? Yes. Okay, so I can keep talking. As you guys know, when I take Jake out, he's pretty quick because it's cold and it's snowy, and we keep getting like 3 to 4 inches of snow a day, and which does not give me much of a happiness. And my car that I just went out and uncovered yesterday is now recovered, so I'm going to have to get up extra early tomorrow in order to go out and unbury it so I can go to my doctor's appointment for my hand tomorrow, which kind of sucks, but whatever. I'm coming, son. I'm coming. So I don't have my chat with me, but I'll catch up on it when we get back. I can't see hauling both tablets with me for how fast he is. So for those who are listening, I have an elderly Dalmatian named Jake, who is kind of the mascot of my Willows Bend crew. And he's about 15 years old, and he can't hold us to go out for too long, so I gotta take him out. He doesn't actually in the house. Can still sometimes happen, but he doesn't stay out too long. It's cold and snowy out just here in the United States, in upstate New York, where I live. I can show you guys. Give me a second to get him hooked up so he can go out first. Okay, here you go, son. And of course, cleaning off my truck one-handed on one side because of the stitches, and the other side, a bad shoulder. Soft immensely, I'm gonna lie. So, actually, I don't know if I can. No, I can't reverse my camera on Zoom, or can I? Maybe I can. Let's see if it works. Is my roof leaking in here? Holy cow. My roof is leaking. Let the landlord know. Let's see if that works. There we go. So that's Jake. For anybody watching on YouTube who doesn't know him. And yeah, my buried truck that I just unburied yesterday. Yeah. Good times. So as you can see, we have a lot of snow here. Yeah. Not happy. I am so more than ready for spring to set in. I really am. Get my camera back around. There we go. So, are you coming back up now, Jake? Maybe. Yes, no? Maybe so. You coming up? Attaboy. You got a snowy nose, puppy.
I was just going to say, Donna, welcome to live radio on TV. We are live on location. Everything happens.
We are. We are. That's why I said, as for those who are listening and don't see, I'm in upstate New York in the United States. And for those who are new to me or have seen my videos before, I was explaining to them that he is an elderly Dalmatian, about 15. And when he has to go out, he can't hold it for that long, unfortunately. And I could not get him up and to go out prior to the show starting. I did try. Come on, watch out. Let me in. Let me in, let me in, let me in. Let me in, let me in. There we go. As you wish, Jake. She's not in your way. Power cords. That's actually, let's put it here. I'm going to plug in my other tablet before it gets too low while we get settled and get him back up. And let's see. Wear your mask to be there. Don't doubt Niagara Falls are frozen. Yep, we are live on location. Mother Nature is on crack. Yeah, no, I'm so sick of. No, it's not beautiful, Gina. Don't fool yourself. You wouldn't say that if you lived in it. Trust me. Yeah, Nancy, I'm just so tired of snow and winter in general and the cold. Yep, that's my home. That's the location. My home. Come on up, puppy. She's not in your way. You can get up. Texas finally thought out. Oh yeah, no, I know. Chris, who's in the chat, she's had lost power for a few days, and it was below zero. And Texas in the United States had gotten below 0 Fahrenheit, and there were like 11 people who died from hypothermia in their home, which was horrible, including children. So I was worried about Chris, who lives there. She, her and her cat. I'm very grateful that they made it out okay, and they're still having to boil water and that, but they at least have running water now. Oh yeah, Gina. No, we got, like I said, we've been getting an average of 3 to 4 inches of snow all week, every day this week. So it just keeps piling up. Even when it says like an inch and a half, yeah, no, we get 3.5. So yeah, we got probably about 1.5 feet of snow out there right now piled up. My car was stuck in the driveway for a week. Don't drive through a foot of snow. Yeah, no, I've got 4-wheel drive on my truck, and yeah, I mean, you kind of need it in this area, at least, in order to successfully drive these backcountry roads. Yes, but their utility bills are in the thousands. Oh yeah, no, there's issues down there, Lori, for sure. Okay, so back to the topic. Oh, Jake, geez, I'm Crow. What are you doing? You're going to have to push that door open because I'm not getting up to open it for you. They're sliding, the door's recessed into the walls here, and he hears stuff out there, and he thinks he's going to go in. Dude, I'm going to actually close one of them because I get a big draft on me from my one room, which isn't well heated back there. It's a little room, but it doesn't get warm. So that's why I keep the doors shut in the wintertime, because otherwise it just gets too chilly. Here, I will give you permission while I'm on the air so you can wander in that. Hey, look. Dude, pay attention. Jake, look. It's open. You can get in if your little heart desires. Now you can stop pestering me, please. I love you, but yes. And he just walks in, turns right back around, comes back out. Goodness gracious, Jake. You know what? Get settled, please. I love you, but get settled. All right. So Seth went on to say that Seth really wanted us to study the nature of reality for ourselves, and as we've never studied it before. That we can't trust our senses and call them lovely liars, quote unquote, to have us believing everything we get from them without question. Yeah, exactly. His main message was that, quote, we can create the world that we know. And really, that is the spiritual side of the idea of the understanding of the 3D reality we live in, is that as a collective of all of our energies put into it together has created everything humankind made that's around us. We've all created it as it is now ourselves, and that only through collective changing it will it change. It has to, be a group effort to have it shift and change, which many of us who are more spiritual in nature do believe that things are shifting now, finally, which is a good thing. But it's gonna, it's gonna take time. This reality we exist in now, or we think we exist in now, wasn't created overnight, so it won't shift overnight and change. It takes time. But it's believed that all the stuff that's going on in the world now is part of that shift starting. So, let's see. He thought that our thoughts are projections to make our own realities both good and bad, that our unconsciousness is far more knowledgeable about getting everything that we allow ourselves to believe. So, like, you kind of in the book likened it to, you have your unconscious mind and you have your conscious mind. Your unconscious mind is like your soul self, and your conscious mind is your waking mind, right? So the conscious mind is happy in the existence it lives in and the 3D reality we deal with, and it kind of keeps blinders on to keep us stuck in place. Whereas the soul self sees it as it actually is. And hi, Dad. You really have to kind of shift your reality, basically, is what he's talking about, to understand that you can get the two sides to work together, and it does take a little bit of time. However, it won't happen overnight, but it does take practice. But you can get them to kind of see, for the unconscious mind to get the conscious mind's ego to understand it's not like trying to come in and take over everything and undo it and kill it off something, to get it to see that it's trying to help. And through understanding that the unconscious or soul self is trying to help, if you can come to understand and accept that, it makes your view of the world in which you live in a whole lot easier to understand, process, and comprehend. So that's what he's talking about with that. So he also goes on to say that the unconscious is the inner perceiver of info that allows us to see beyond the 3 dimensions our conscious self has created, to go beyond that, to understand there are other dimensions. And we've done shows before on what all the different dimensions are. I want to say we covered it maybe last month, I think, of what the dimensions are. So he said that our inner ego, our unconsciousness, our true selves, carries each of the memories of our past lives that we've had. Outer ego, the conscious mind, operates the world we know, but they work together to bring us inner knowing that we have, that our outer existence can't be maintained without that knowing. However, there's still a deeper portion of us that forms both our outer and inner egos that decided we'd be like a physical being in this place and time, our, quote, psychic seed from which we became. So basically, again, he's talking about getting the two sides to work together. And yourself has an ego too, but it's not of the same nature as your conscious waking mind's ego is. And it's only through usually having a huge humbling experience that the conscious ego can lower and get out of its own way, and to understand what's really important and put things in perspective. As long as you don't get stuck into the victim consciousness when you have a really big humbling experience, then you can kind of, again, get the ego out of the way and then proceed onward with greater understanding of yourself, your place in the universe, why you're here, and answer all these questions you may have for yourself. So he goes on to say how we don't understand him or his messages unless we get rid of the idea that personality is a here and now consciousness. The self we know is, but only one part of our identity, like segments of an orange, and cells, no cells strung together on a string. So he's talking about basically that, like, our personality in our waking self is only one portion of who we really are. And I think he's talking about like the cells being strung together on a string. Like, I think he's talking about like the DNA language before it was discovered by us, as to what information is contained within the DNA codes. So he confirmed, yep, what I thought, that there's no living being, rock, air, animal, plant, mineral not filled with its own consciousness of its own kind, and that we're surrounded by all this aware energy, as he calls it. So he said that we're filled with conscious cells, each filled with the realization of their own identity, who work knowingly toward making our corporeal body. So our physical selves, basically, that even our cells have their own awareness as they can understand it. We're different from ours, of course, they're cells, but they have their own energy within themselves that work towards making our physical body and making it work. And so that every organism that is organic in nature, natural based, has its own energy, has its own consciousness, and has its own soul self. It may be different than ours, but it still has one nonetheless. And so, for example, like many indigenous people from the United States have that belief, and that's why there's such a respect for nature, is the awareness that the energy is within every organism on the planet, all work together, and it, like a big giant spider's web, and where if one strand gets damaged or misplaced, so to speak, that it's not going to work so well together. And like a spider would come in and like make a new web, because it's now weakened. So it has to work together. And so it has its own consciousness and its own awareness, and it's able to do its job that it was put here to do, but that it's still aware nonetheless. And so again, that's why a lot of American Indians have such respect for nature, trees, rocks, doesn't matter, any living thing, because it understands that it is its own being, which makes it sacred. So he goes on to say that there's no such thing as dead matter, that each consciousness rejoices in its own sensations and creativity. Unless we can understand such matters, that we won't understand ourselves better. Seth looked at egos as a jealous god in which wants to keep us in its comfort zone of reality, and that if you are in touch with your intuitive side and your creative side, that and all are allowed like a greater instinct and freedom of expression, then that they can communicate some knowledge of greater dimensions of your personality. So in other words, understanding those other aspects, you're going to gain a greater understanding of who you are and what your place in this web of life, if you will, in this lifetime is about. But that's not all there is. So he said personality is part of an ever-changing perception of each preceding perception. So it's just your personality, your ideas, and your perceptions of things always change, but it's just still all part of your own personality. So he goes on to explain how he was able to communicate through Jane. He also calls Rupert, as he knew Jane in a past life. He explains, rather than pushing her consciousness out of the way, he adds to it. He explains that there's a part of one's consciousness that acts like a window whereby other realities can be perceived, a multidimensional opening that escapes being clouded over by the physical focus. So I think that's kind of like likening it to those of us who have gifts and use them, that we have a heightened awareness to connect to other energies through that window that he's talking about. Or I also sometimes liken it to a door between your conscious mind and your soul self, and that like those who have gifts and use them and are in touch with them, that door kind of stays cracked open most of the time, so it's not ever firmly shut. And that those who, I mean, we all could access gifts. I think it's a matter of having faith and trust that nothing terrible is going to happen to you, and people's religious views can get in the way of that, and fear in general of what you might encounter or see prevents people from fully accessing their gifts. And when you have no fear and you go forward and you relish that door being cracked open, possibilities are endless. So Seth said that your physical senses usually blind us to those open channels. So in other words, our physical perceptions, sight, hearing, taste, touch, all those senses get in the way of those open channels that are there to process other kinds of energetic information from. He said that he enters a page flip. It's a page flip. Ow. He enters our reality through a psychological warp in our space and time. So it serves like a pathway between Rupert or Jane's personality and his own to go between. He likened it through like kind of how a TV show, for example, is broadcast from one location and goes through the different airways and satellite broadcasting systems and so forth to end up in your living room on your device or TV. And that's how he gets to her consciousness, is kind of like going through all those different channels and navigating that as a soul being to come through her. So he goes on to discuss his home environment and says he assumes whatever shape he chooses, and it does vary with the nature of his thoughts. Now, I do understand what he's referencing there, because I almost think my comments froze. Let me see. Or it's just nobody saying anything. I think nobody's saying anything. Whoop. Come on. Swipe. Nope. Okay. When I'm encountering a soul being on the other side, so say if someone asks for a reading to connect to a loved one they've lost, right? I asked for them to come in. I have it's going to sound nutso to those who don't understand this stuff or believe in it, whatever. And that's fine if you don't believe in it or you disagree with me or your experiences are different, because everyone who has gifts operate differently and their gifts manifest differently. So there is no right or wrong way. So basically for me, my guides kind of made me what I call my sacred space. Thank you, Chris. Sometimes my comments do freeze, so I have to check them. So I think when I call them into my sacred space, which is, for me, it's kind of in the upper fourth dimension. So we're in the third dimension, right? And so I go up to the next dimension, and it's kind of like a halfway meeting point for them. So I'm in the upper fourth dimension when I deal with soul beings and call them into my space, and they come down from usually the fifth dimension. The fourth dimension is like a hallway between the two places. And it's used just basically to travel through it mostly. So I call them in, and I first will see them. They'll appear mainly like how you remember them as, whoever is seeking a reading, in a form that you remember them as looking as. But then as I get going along and I'm speaking to them, they kind of, for me, ditch that form, and I see them more in their energetic form, and I see their light and the energy light that they have. And it can be very bright. It can have a lot of emotions tied to it. I mean, feeling that at times has made me cry from the intensity of the joy I felt or the love I felt from them towards whoever I'm doing the reading for. And anybody who knows me knows I'm not a big crier. I don't cry super easy. I mean, I can cry, obviously, but I'm not one to cry at the drop of a hat, typically. And welcome back, Sandy. So in order to have an emotion hit me like that from someone I don't know personally, yeah, it's got to be pretty big. And so that's how that works for me. Um, there have been those during a reading that just brings it on. And sometimes I have to ask them to just take a step back from me so their energy isn't pressing so hard on me too, because I don't want to sit and bawl while I'm, in a live show. No, not at all like purgatory, Karen. It's more like a hallway. So it's kind of like a way for beings from the upper dimensions to travel to here, for example. So it's not like purgatory at all. It's my space that my guides created for me is literally like a domed white light room, or a room made of white light, and it's kind of like a dome shape. So it's kind of rounded, and there's a one door in and out, and that's it. There's no windows or otherwise. I'm not allowed to like poke my head out the door. So I'm always, when I see myself in there, I'm always on the opposite side of the room from the door. I'm just not supposed to go over there. And my ancestors patrol the outside to kind of prevent anything negative from entering, and also to only allow the energy of the person I'm seeking to come in, not somebody pretending to be them, or unrelated people to wander in. So they only allow that who I'm seeking to enter. And that says, so can you see them in their earthly bodies at first? Yes, I do usually see them how you know them first. And then from there, they kind of shift as I'm speaking to them, to where I don't see their physical bodies anymore, or the bodies they had or they chose to look like for me when they first come in. And then they take on more of their energetic forms. And then as I'm speaking to them, it's hard to explain that. It's like their words flow through me to you in a conversational way. I just let it flow, but I'm perfectly present and aware, and I really am repeating what they're saying, but it's almost like they are helping the flow of it happen, if that makes sense. I'm going to close that door I opened wide for my dog, who wandered in, looked around, and came back out immediately. And he was like ready to break the door down to get in there, which, there's nothing in there really. A bunch of boxes I store in there, and one window to my upstairs neighbor's front porch. But I don't keep it wide open because it gets drafty in here. It's an old house. Watch your tail so I don't sit on your tail. Look at that look he just shot me. He's all right. I'm getting up and settled. You're all right, old boy. Here we go. Okay. Sorry, guys. So, so that's how I perceive them myself. And again, every psychic medium sees and experiences things a little bit different. That's just how I have a really good working relationship with my guides, where so I call her my guardian, and she is the voice for my other guides, who kind of stay more in the background. I know their energy, but I don't directly interact with them. So she passes on stuff to me that I need to know from them, and as I need to know it, or answer questions for me, whatever. But it's very like turning and talking to a friend and saying, so what about this? And she has her own personality. She can be very snarky, but she's honest, but she can just sometimes get irritated with my stupid questions if I'm asking one. Like, if I'm asking a question that I'm looking for validation for, where I really do already know the answer, she can get snarky. And that's just how she is, but she does it with love. She means well, but that's just her personality. Yeah, he's passed out beside me. So he says, quote, "This ability to change is an inherent characteristic of any consciousness. Only the degree of proficiency and actualization can vary," end quote. Boy, he's being disruptive tonight. Just had an accident. Poop poopy doo. Yep. I see. I see. let me pick this up, guys. I apologize. You know, the benefits of doing a live podcast, I guess. Yeah. Because he's elderly, he doesn't get much warning when he has to poop. So he tries to get up and make it for the door, but he never makes it. And often leaves a trail behind him, which is yucky, of course, but he can't help it. He doesn't like doing it. I don't get mad at him because it's an accident, so it is what it is. So let me pick this up quick because he will not get up and get settled again unless I do, and I know that about him. So, yes, Jake, I am working on it. Sorry, guys. He will settle in after this because then he will have gone both. I think he went out to go potty, so that's done, and now that, so he should be set, thankfully, for the remainder of the show. These floors need to be steam clean, Jake or Baker. I'm just saying, honey. Watch out, please. Thank you. Let's take care of that. Okay. Throw it in there, and we'll change the trash after the show's over. Okay, can I stop having springs on my fanny now? I would love that. Go ahead. Go ahead. It's all right. When I see the dearly departed, they show in quick flashes on my right side. Oh, that's interesting, Karen, because everyone else I know. So I'm curious about how different gifts, manifest for each person. So I always question people about this. It is hell getting old, absolutely. No, I know. And like I said, I don't get mad because he's old. Go ahead, babies. Nothing is in your way. She's on the far side of the bed. You've got the entire area to jump up in. Come on. So most people that I've spoken to anyways, when we're connecting with intention, they tend to come in from the left side for us. But when they seek you out unexpectedly, like you're not planning on it, but someone has a message to give you or pass on from something to someone else who's maybe not listening and paying attention, they tend to come in on no, wait a second. I'm trying to think of the other people I've talked to. Okay, so it's like they come in from the right side for me when I'm connecting. So you're right. Sorry, Karen, you're not. I'm mistaking things because I'm distracted by him. Yeah, uppy puppy, exactly. So they come in on the right side when I connect, and when they're seeking me to pass on something for something, come in from the left side. Does it work that way for you, Karen? Or do you not get those who are seeking assistance, so to speak? You don't connect with intentions usually. No, I don't mean that. I mean, like, okay, so a soul being comes to you, they know you know somebody and they are connected to them, but they're not paying attention to get their message, but it's important they know it for whatever reason. So they may, ask you, can you please pass this on to so-and-so? Or for some people, when they get the ringing in their ears thing, and when like tinnitus has been ruled out and all that stuff, what my guides have said that is that we are semi-tuned into the frequency, but not completely. They're talking amongst themselves, and we're just kind of starting to tune into the frequency, and that's the ringing tone we hear, but we're not completely tuned in to actually hear what's being said. Or are you saying that you don't connect intentionally? So that's from people I've talked to, that's how it always works, is they come in on the right side when we seek to connect to them. And then when it's an unintentional visitor that you don't plan on, then they come in from the other side. Yeah, Chris, a lot of people do. And that's how my guides have explained it to me, is that it's a frequency that we're starting to tune into, but not fully enough to hear what's being said. And everybody I know who gets that and has stopped and said, can I help you with somebody there, or do you have a message to pass on, that they never ever get an answer back. And that's why, because that we're not totally tuned in to what's being said. You get words in your head and you sputter them out. I've had that happen before. whispers in your left ear. So that's probably someone trying to connect to you to pass on a message for somebody or to someone, I would say. So, everybody's gifts manifest slightly different. Okay, I plugged you in, so why aren't you charging? Let me try to put that in again. There we go. So that battery's getting dangerously low, and it shouldn't be. I thought I had a second cord to use, and I dug through my cords tonight. And yeah, it goes to my cell phone, but it does not work in my Kindle. It fits, but it doesn't charge. So is what it is. But so yeah, I mean, I've had random stuff come to me before too, and I've even had someone else, a soul being's emotions given to me before, and I'm kind of like, why am I crying about this? Like, this isn't something I would typically cry over, yet it's not my emotions that I'm bringing forward. And it took me a second to realize whose it was and where I was getting it from. It was actually related to Aaron Brody. It was his mom coming through. He had made some post about it when he started his job and got his uniform and all that. And she was just so proud of him and I've connected to her so many times for him that she kind of knows she has free will to come in and give a message for him or what have you. But she kind of crossed a boundary a little bit with that of putting her emotions onto me. Yeah, I wasn't thrilled by that. We had a talk after that. She hasn't done it since, thankfully. So he says that this quote, this ability to change is an inherent characteristic of any consciousness. Only the degree of proficiency and actualization can vary. So in other words, that everybody has the ability to connect, everybody has the ability to forgive, but the degree of them are going to vary from person to person. Right, exactly, Gina. Some people have physical medical reasons for that loud ringing, and that's something to rule out. But if it's been ruled out, then yeah, it's usually amongst those who are gifted or have a high vibration, etc., light workers, whatever you want to call us. And we're experiencing that. And that's what my guides have explained it that it is. So I go with it because I trust them. So I trust what they say. And that's how they've explained it. So it's almost like when you're trying to tune a radio station in and you start to get tuned in, but not quite, you can't quite get it. And that's kind of what the ringing is. Yeah, I'm moderately deaf on both sides, Karen, but I don't have tinnitus. No, she's fine. That was a while ago, Aaron. She has nothing to be salty about. Again, it was quite a while ago, and she didn't realize the degree in which she was doing it to me. And since then, we created boundaries and she hasn't done it yet. Yeah, exactly, Gina. I always thought it was someone talking about me. They could be, Tanya. It's just we're not fully tuned into their frequency to hear it, what's being said. So it's like, okay, so it's kind of like when you're getting close to a radio station to where the static, you might get that higher pitched squealing noise when you're getting near a radio station that's going to tune in, but you can't quite get it. You can't quite catch the station, no matter how you fiddle with the dial or the knob. And it's like that. So we're near the frequency in which they're speaking to each other on, but we're not fully tuned in to actually hear what they're saying to each other. So it comes across as the ringing instead. How you doing, Dad? My dad's in my Facebook group chat for those who are listening on the radio. So our perceptions and senses confine us to a highly formalized reality, and only through the use of intuitions and sleep and dream states can we see glimpses of true consciousness of the actual realities on the other side. So like lucid dreaming is how we can, oh my gosh, has it almost been 2 hours already? Is that right, Katie? Is my clock right?
Yeah, you can keep going as long as you want until you want to finish.
Oh, okay. Well, it's up to you guys. If you want me to continue or not, please let me know in chat. I know a lot of the time has been eaten up by Puppy Jake tonight, and I apologize for that. there, I can at least finish this topic and save the teachings of Michael for another night if you want, or I'll keep going. You guys let me know. Welcome back, Nancy. So through like lucid dreaming, we can manipulate our dream environments. And that's kind of what he's talking about there, that through doing that, we can catch glimpses of the other side. Mary says, go ahead. Okay. Chris says, keep going. We can manifest certain dream states that we then go on to manifest in our waking state that we often dismiss as being valid. By using our unconsciousness via increasing it through via intuitions, etc., we become co-creators, unconscious or not, by using our inner senses. Keep going, keep going, keep going. Okay, up to you, says Nancy. Okay. Well, I wouldn't offer it if I wasn't willing to do so. What am I up for? I'm up for whatever, Dad. I roll with it. I don't mind, keep going. Nothing on TV and asshole isn't home yet. So are you saying I'm better than nothing, Tanya? That's not good. So because I don't understand the idea of order, so his environment to us seems unstructured. It's not that it is unstructured, but it appears to have no structure from our perspective and able to perceive it. Lori says, I'm aware that I'm very spiritual. I've heard angels sing at my father-in-law's deathbed. I think that I try not to listen. It's okay if you do. Karen says, science recently communicated with someone in lucid dream. Science is catching up. Yes, there was a German scientist. I covered that, I want to say, a year or so ago in the original lucid dreaming show. There was a German scientist who had experimented with that with his partner, and it did come up that they were able to have some form of communication. So I think that they piggybacked on his research and took it a step further is what happened with that. Thank you, Tanya. Okay, Annette, if you need to go, that's okay, sweets. You can always watch the replay if you're interested. All I can do is watch DVDs or VCR movie. I don't have cable myself, so I get that. So he's saying, think of it like this. How different does a tree appear to different beings? Does it appear as a bug or an animal or a bacteria? Or how about us? How do we appear to other beings? So how would a tree see us? I'm afraid that I may be overwhelmed. Well, that's okay, Lori. Since you're new, and if Augusta is still here too, and anybody who happens to join my Facebook Willows Bend group, there is underneath the group photo is a bunch of gray tabs that are marked as like guides. There's one for albums, there's one for events, that type of stuff. Under the guides one, there is different, I have a resource library in there, and it's separated by topics. So you're welcome to explore that, and there might be stuff in there that can help you gain a better understanding. And you can always shoot me a question or two if you have one, if you need to or want to. Like, I'm available. So there's nothing wrong with that. Everybody has to learn along the way, and everybody's at a different place. So nothing wrong with that. But yeah, I would start there. I mean, that's why I have a resource library for you all, is to help you guys. It's not just, for my purposes. I know that stuff already, so I'm putting it in there for the members, not just for me. I lost most of my family, says Karen. Everything at your own pace. Exactly. So Seth is talking about different perspectives. Oh, you're very welcome, Lori. I'm here to teach. And so, that's everybody is at a different, in their own level and pace, has had their awakening at different times, and it's all a learning experience. So there's no judgment in this group. I don't tolerate it. Exactly, Tanya. She just posted in chat the exact same thing I just said. So Seth is talking about perspectives and like thinking of it of, how does a tree appear to, say, a bug or an animal or bacteria? Does it still appear as the same form of a tree like it does to us? Or how do we appear to a tree or a bug or an animal? So he's talking about it's all from different perspectives, and it doesn't mean that there's no structure to that idea. It's all from different perspectives. Well, the same thing for anybody is that you're welcome to ask questions, and through asking questions, you learn, Nancy. I just heard you, Tanya. That's all. You're thinking loudly. And one thing that I can do if I'm close to somebody, it's not that I'm going into your head without permission. I just hear thoughts that are really loud. Good night, Annette. We love you, and don't worry about it, sweetheart. I never get angry at that because there is the replay if someone is interested in it. I'm a weirdo. I just judge you if you put mustard on a taco. I have to draw the line somewhere. Well, I don't know anybody who has put mustard on a taco, Karen, but perhaps you have. Mine is too. Got a hearing aid that hooks to my phone. Oh, about being moderately or partially deaf. Yeah. Yeah, I don't do, like spiders, exactly. I chose not to use hearing aids because I have adaptive skills that I don't want to lose by getting used to a hearing aid doing the work for me. So like I taught myself how to read lips, and I know certain tricks that help me to hear people better. Like don't walk ahead of me and talk, don't walk behind me and talk, because I'm not going to hear you. So you're saying that, that a tree would appear different, but it is different to each being, because each being's opinion or view is in perspective is different from ours. Ours is but one perspective, but it's not like the end all be all one. And that we're not able to perceive it as anything different than what we know. And that really is accurate, that everything we encounter, we always liken it to something we've experienced it. And if we haven't actually experienced it before, well, we're not going to have something to relate it to enhance our understanding of it. So for example, if someone who deals with chronic pain, someone who is in pain 24/7, 365 a year, that kind of becomes like a way of life that you're used to it. And someone who their biggest experience with pain, maybe they sprained a joint once upon a time, and I know what you mean, and I had that, I was in this for a week or something. Well, okay, that's great, but that's not a full understanding of always living with it for years on end type of thing. So it's kind of like, what I mean is that, or what he means is that we can't perceive it if we don't know it. Masks do make reading lips hard. Absolutely. Yeah, I taught myself that as a kid. I didn't unfortunately have anybody to work with me. It was identified early on that I had hearing issues, but nobody did anything about it. So kind of just taught myself in order to get by. I'm not fantastic at it, but I can make out enough words to put together what's being said usually. But yes, masks make that a whole lot more difficult. So he says you can, let me put my page here. Yeah, and mustard on pizza is kind of gross, Sandy. I'm just saying. It's not a taco, but I might have to add it now. Oh, geez. So Seth explains that it's not how we perceive reality, or it's not that we perceive reality as false. Instead, that we only see it in one of the infinite numbers of guises that it actually can be seen as. You got your new hearing, or you get your new hearing aids in the morning. Well, congratulations. Hey, Aaron, you're terribly late. Exactly. We do adapt because you have to, Nowadays, those special adaptations are made for children when they have issues, and they're identified early on, thankfully. But when we were growing up, they weren't. So you had to fend for yourself on it. Aaron Kilmer has entered the building, correct. And you're lucky because I normally would be going off the air. I would have been off the air already, Aaron. So you got lucky. We're going late tonight. So basically, we're only able to perceive things in one of the infinite number of ways that it can actually be seen and viewed for. Seth states that there's a reason we see things as we do, though, that when we're born, we're not a blank slate, but we're equipped with a memory bank far surpassing any computer. Personality is not just a here and now attribute of consciousness. We're not able to advance till we get that part. So again, personality is not a here and now attribute of consciousness, and that we can't advance until we grasp that process, that our personality isn't just something that we have in this lifetime, it's something we carry with us from lifetime to lifetime, and that parts of it may change, but the core of it never changes. I had a stepdad that was deaf and taught us sign when I was little. Nice. I actually learned the sign language alphabet. My dad and my mom used to, they started running the first residential home through, like, it was, I guess it was the ARC is what it would be, but now it's ARC, but the ARC, in Nebraska when I was a little girl. And my mom had taught one of our residents, Jack, American Sign Language to help him communicate. He was a very smart guy, but he just physically wasn't able to communicate. So she taught him the alphabet. So I used to practice that at night, every night before I went to sleep, until I learned how to do the alphabet. So I still can do. I can't do a lot of like the full-on ASL, but I know some. This is me, bitches. So yeah, remember that, Dad, if you're still in chat. So our personality is but one small part of who we are. It's not the end all be all. Seth believes that we must wake up and that his purpose is to open our inner eyes. So he goes on to talk about the universe in space. He wanted to kind of give his say-so on that. Yeah, Jack was the one that Mom had taught ASL to, well, at least the alphabet to, and that's where I learned how to do the alphabet. I could still run through it. 40 years later, Jack was a sweet guy. I know it's just easier to read lips. It is. It could be part of it, Erin. You know, you're making a big adjustment by quitting smoking and in your life, and so might be. Now he went to another class first that he found more important than mine. No, just kidding. Pack your bag. We're going on a guilt trip. I'm teasing, honey. You know that. So, as far as the topic of space and the universe, Seth talks about in his book. Hi, Stacia. Yeah, Aaron just got here too. He's still alive, Dad? Wow, I wouldn't have expected that. Holy cow. I remember everybody who lived in that house. I remember Phyllis and Vivian and Jack, and well, those are the main ones that we interacted with, but also there was the one that Mom used to allow to come home on weekends. Oh, what was her name? Deborah. She used to come home on the weekends to the farmhouse and spend the weekends with us. Yep. Wow, I'm surprised he's still alive. That's awesome. And Dennis, we had Dennis too. Mr. Temper. He's the one who killed Mom's knees, was through the steel-toed boots, was Dennis. So, well, that's great to know. I mean, this is 40 years ago, so he had to, I mean, I don't know how old he was, but back then they were coming straight from the institutes into the residential homes. It was a brand new program back then, and both my parents ran they were the residence's house managers, And so that was my second home. Trying to get mom to quit smoking, but she'll never do it. She'll die in her deathbed with a cigarette. Well, you know not to bother me about it, Erin, because you know I'm not ready to quit. So, okay, Mary, have a good rest of the night. Yeah, people with cerebral palsy, they don't quite age the same way, but that's awesome that you still see him, though. Does he remember you? That's cool to know that he's still alive. I was like 9 years old back then. And yeah, I used to go straight there after school, and I would spend my nights there. A lot of nights, if one of you guys had to spend the night, I stayed there with you and then just went to school the next day from the house. So leave the vodka. Anyhow, so on the topic of space in the universe, Seth goes on to say that the events we perceive are not as it is. When he arrives in our dimension, he moves through a series of events. It's up to her, Erin. What's up to me? Oh, about quitting smoking. Yeah, you're right. So, Dad, does Jack recognize you still? Just curious. So he says that he moves through a series of events when coming into our dimension through space. He said he must tune his consciousness in our direction and translate that into which we can understand by intruding into our third dimensional reality. And we don't get that in dream time. We intrude into other realities as without interaction that we'd have with our normal conscious self. We leave behind our reality. Well, I mean, I would think that, he'd get a little excited or whatever if he remembers you. But I figured if you know he's alive still, then it's a good time to say no, but I still guilt trip her once in a while. You try to guilt trip me once in a while. Doesn't work real well, does it? So, I do understand what Seth is saying about how he comes into our reality, because that's how I do remote viewing and stuff, or that I viewed the angelic realm, is by sending my consciousness elsewhere. So it's through my intentions for one, and my focus. And so I get to, I can through that send it kind of wherever I choose to. Oh, Chantax is terrible, Karen. I tried that once and I had like psychotic dreams. Like they were so out there that they were like frightening me. So yeah, we stopped that, and I just knocked a whole handful of band-aids on the floor. Oh well. We are all in the corner with spirits. We are, technically, actually. So I do understand what Seth is talking about on how he gets here, and that it didn't make me want to smoke more. It made it like burn my mouth, and that's about it. But it gave me like freaky horrible dreams. So yeah, the dreams were outrageous, and yeah, I stopped it because of that. Yeah, nope, no Shantax for me. I'm good. So when he enters our reality, it's like Seth is entering one of our dreams. He can be aware of himself as he speaks through Jane. The dreams were cool, really, Dad? Oh, mine are horrible, like psychotically awful. No, I didn't like it. They altered my whole like psychic mind. Like Patches gave you night terrors, really? Yeah, mine weren't like nightmares. They were just so far out there. They were disturbing and enough to where I just couldn't deal with it anymore. So we stopped that. So Seth is saying that, he can be aware of himself when he's speaking through Jane, and still be aware of his own environment at the same time. He only sends part of himself there, which I do also understand, because when I do travel, as I call it, to other places with my consciousness, I am still very much aware of what is going on around me. Jake gets up and down off the bed or whatever. The phone rings, cat meows. I'm aware of all of that, but it's only part of me that's there. And my physical self is still here. You taste in my dreams. It was so much fun. I mean, someone asking you about quitting. Yeah, no, that never works. No. It's some awesome nightmares, but you take that shit. Yeah, I don't have nightmares very often. I mean, I travel a lot in my dreams, but yeah, we're just like so far out there. I don't remember exactly what were now, but they were disturbing. Yeah, I won't use Chanjax again either. So I do understand what Seth is talking about with that. And even before I encountered this material, that was validation to me of what I experience when I do what I do to help people. So, or to actually even enlighten myself in what I do. That stuff helps, that validates what I already know. So again, it kind of adds to the validity of the material for me. So we're moving on to the eternal validity of the soul. The soul is not what we have, but what we are. The soul is alive and not something we own like a cherished heirloom. It's a state of being and becoming. We believe we only evolved to perfection in order to present ourselves to God. The soul contains the ability to form its own worlds, and we must evolve to do so. It's the most powerful, energetic being. We are only one with manifesting with our own souls. There are many different incarnations that you can have and experience through that. The inner soul stuff doesn't change after death. It is retained after death. Once we cross over the stuff of our inner soul, it doesn't go away. We are our soul self, a collection of all the lifetimes we've ever lived. Hence where some people can tune into a past life, is because it's a collection. It's all there within you. It's just you being able to be open enough to tune into it, or willing to, and not afraid of it. Yeah, no, hey Miranda. I won't use that. So he says that the soul doesn't have to follow laws of a physical reality or perception. The soul's perception isn't bound by time that we create of a false perception. We are the only beings that really clock time the way we do, that it's a very fluid thing. And I think, too, that the more evolved you get on your soul path, the more fluid time can get in our reality, to where you more easily lose track of time. Like I didn't realize that it already had passed the 2-hour mark. It's a very fluid thing. I felt like I'd only been on air for maybe an hour. The soul is a powerhouse of probable actions to be expressed. The soul is sure of itself, and it speaks. If we understood it, we wouldn't fear telepathy, and we fear our own identity being taken from us by tuning into telepathy. I'm not afraid of it now. The way I view that is, as I said before, when I said the exact same comment that Tanya typed out, she said, get out of my head. Well, I'm not really in her head. I heard her thought because I'm close to her. When I'm close with somebody, I don't hear every single thing you're thinking. I don't go with intention into someone else's headspace, because that's your private space. So there are those people who've kind of been like, oh yeah, no, anytime you want, go ahead in. No, I won't, because it's, to me, in violation. So without permission each time, to me, it's almost equivalent to a rape. Like, you're not going to violate someone that way. So if someone asks me to go in to their mind for them, or that it's okay to do so each time, but I'm going to ask it each time. I'm not going to just, even if they give me free access whenever, I will not take it. And anytime I let somebody know and I share with them that I can pick up random thoughts just openly. If you're thinking loudly and I'm connected to you, I can overhear a certain thought if you're thinking loudly about it most times. So amazing. I'll have to watch the replay. A few things I need to do, so I have to head off. Well, that was quick, Erin. I hope everything's okay. I love that. I'm studying the Akashic. I know more learning, but I manifest myself a one-to-one business coach, so we'll be moving forward. Good. I think it would be too much for a person to remember every past life experience in one lifetime. It's not, because it's no different than looking at a memory you have from this existing lifetime. They're just additional memories is all. We'll talk about it later. Okay. Thank you, Lori. I know things are a bit off, sweetheart. It's okay. We'll talk later, honey. Yep, I see you. I got you, hon. Love you. So the soul is a powerhouse for probable actions to be expressed, and it's sure of itself, and it speaks. And if we understood, we wouldn't fear telepathy. It's something that can naturally happen for some people. The more tuned in you are, the more we're capable. And again, many beings, even at more higher advanced beings, they don't sit and talk to each other like we do. They all say that our speech is very limiting to them, because rather than speaking words and having to learn the ins and outs of a language and what's a pronoun, what's an adjective, all of those things, and punctuation, that they think that they communicate through emotion and thoughts, and through experiences and energy exchanges and reading one's energy. So, and it's kind of usually all of, it's usually at least two of those things, two out of those three things. Some beings use all three, but it's usually at least two that different beings use to communicate with each other. Karen, stop thinking about sex. I can hear your thoughts. You got something miswired. That's hardly on my mind. Yeah, he doesn't. Aaron isn't telepathic, so no worries there. It does take a certain advance and openness to be able to do it, and I can't. Now that said, I'm not an expert on it. I can't have an entire conversation with someone in their headspace. But then again, I've never known another person to practice it with or to work on it to open it up more. So it's really just something that again, when I'm close to somebody, if you're thinking loudly about something, I pick it up typically, and or randomly even. And the killer clowns in my head is just bad. It's so funny, Karen. But also, if someone asks me to go into their headspace, I can for different reasons, but again, I don't do it without permission. So he says that we're not tuned into the frequencies to experience other dimensions, and the future appears to them as clearly as it does your past to you. So all streams of all realities are connected, and we sometimes can catch a glimpse of glimpses of the different realities or dimensions in dream time, especially because again, when you're dreaming, that door gets thrown wide, but your conscious mind goes to sleep and your soul self can take over, and that's what you get to experience. Hi, Donna. I can't control top. Con Ed keeps going out twice last night, once today, so just want to say hello, talk later. Love you, Mom. Have a good night if you're leaving. And Dad. Yeah, the dad. James and Brenda. Hopefully your power will stay on rather than off. It's too cold to have it go out, or if you have an alternate source to heat your house and stuff. So moving onward to the topic of Jesus Christ. Now, Seth talks about this a fair amount. What he explained, and I in presenting this by no means mean to offend anyone or their beliefs in the Christian view of things, the Bible or otherwise. This is simply what Seth says about the Christ consciousness. I put you on the TV. I'm here, but won't be able to comment. Okay, Nancy. Stacy sometimes does that too. So I throw out that little warning ahead of time regarding what I'm getting into now, because I know how touchy some people are. And again, he doesn't trash talk it at all. This is him, explaining his view of it. Yeah, well, you may not vote. I'm going to have to wait and see how my hand's doing later on this week as to whether I don't know if they're going to take stitches out tomorrow or not. And then, how it's healing from there as to whether I can write yet or not, more than a word or two before it gets too much. So until it gets to that point, I can't do the writing for the research. Why we're covering older topics the last couple weeks, because I can't handwrite yet. So as far as Christ goes, he says that it was part of 3 different personalities and was aware of 2 of them. So that Christ was aware of 2 of the 3 different personalities. And the second can communicate with the 3rd personality. He says he doesn't come to smite sinners or serve the righteous, but to set Christianity right. So in that, he's talking about that for Christ's return, as it speaks of in the Bible during Revelations and such, that that Christ isn't coming back to smite the sinners and serve the righteous, but it's more to set Christianity right, because many of us know that those powers in control of the religion itself, who priests, ministers, etc., many, not all by any means, some are wonderful people. However, there are those in power who take advantage of people for their own financial power and gain. And so it is a thing. We know this, right? So he's saying he's not coming back to smite anybody or save them, but to set it straight. Seth goes on to say he'll undermine religious organizations and unite them. His message will be about the individual in relation to all that is. He states methods that how we can become one with our own entity / soul. He said that by the year 2075, all this will already will come to pass, that this is part of the future timeline of events. He said the coming of Christ was, in our terms and ours only, actually the second coming. So, in other words, how Christ appears in the Bible was actually, according to Seth, the second time Christ appeared in our timeline on earth, that he had actually appeared before the time or at the time of Atlantis, and that those records got either destroyed or forgotten, so that when he appears, as far as in the biblical terms, that was actually his second time here, and that he comes back again, but not in how it's portrayed in the Bible. No, 2075, Sandy. So he's saying that by the year 2075, that Christ will have returned and set the record straight on Christianity, which I'm guessing would have to be about, getting it back to the true message of Christianity, and not, all of the different versions that exist, and, those who are in power who take advantage of people. It's meant more to be there to put it on the right track again, essentially. But that it'll be accomplished in the year 2075. Now, that said, it's also has been prophesized in many different ancient cultures that humanity will enter the golden age of humanity, quote unquote, at which time that, all the big powers, like things are shifting now in order to get to heading towards that golden age that's been prophesized. That, like the governmental powers and control, where everybody's in someone else's pocket or corrupt, all those things are going to fall away. And that everybody's on Earth, or the majority of people, are going to be working for the greater good of humanity, not for their own self propulsion and gain. So that's been prophesied since ancient times, as well as many people in recent times who are seers. Edgar Casey talked about it. Sylvia Brown mentioned it. There's been other people, more recent people who've touched on it. But yeah, the prophecy goes way, way back, that's supposed to come to pass. And many of those of us who deal and sense energies shifting now, that I have, at least by my guides, have been that this is the beginning of heading towards that. But it's going to take time, and we're not going to live to see it happen in our lifetime, but our children or their children will see it come to pass. So he says that even though Christ appears time and time again in our reality, he's only recognized twice. And he said the first time in Atlantis, and once in the Christ story, as it appears in all its distortions. He said he appears and he reappears, making himself known, and other times he doesn't. So in other words, the personality consciousness, the soul being who is known as Christ to us, he has continued being reincarnated. It's just that he doesn't always make himself known to everybody, as he doesn't come out of the closet, so to speak, to announce that, hey, Christ has returned. He just lives a normal life like anyone else. I'm so sad that it get bad for my grandchildren will have to live this. No, Lori, you misunderstand. That by the time our children's children, that they get to be adults, that the shift will have happened to where it enters the golden age of humanity. So that all the things that have to be disrupted now in order to recreate the reality in which we live in, that will happen throughout our lifetime and our children's lifetimes. So by the time that their children are grown, our grandchildren, then it should come to pass that we enter into the golden age of humanity, and that things will kind of be redesigned and be on the better path for everyone's greater good. So it's more like us and our kids are going to be experiencing, things have to, unfortunately, right now, be shaken up and get loud and violent and ugly to get people's attention to it, because that's where most people, their consciousness resides in and what they get attention for. Do you think he knows who he was in past life, or just living like us? I think I would say it's probably living like us. If he was aware, then, like I can tune into many of my past lives. So I believe he probably could too, in which case he would know he was the Christ figure. But at the same time, just is here to live a normal life, to evolve. But is it going to get worse than it is now? In some ways, yes, and in some ways, no, Lori. But it's going to be, again, the existing system has to be broken down before it can be rebuilt. So, yes, some things can get worse now, but it's supposed to end up getting better by the time our grandkids are grown. Then it's supposed to enter the golden age of humanity, where, again, everybody is living for the greater good of everyone else, not, for their own agendas. Does that make sense? So Seth goes on to say that Christ was a more developed entity and only appears as a fragment of himself, which, again, the main soul body resides on the other side and is only part of your consciousness is here or in any dimension living in another existence. So it's kind of saying the same thing that we experience. Exactly, Chris. So this is just some of the excerpted ideas from the book, quote, written by Seth, called Seth Speaks, The Eternal Validity of the Soul. Now, you can get the Amazon Kindle version that's available you can get it for free through a free audiobook audio trial. But again, I don't know if it's that same horrible voice narrating it or not. So I know I got it on Amazon as a a good condition used paperback for, what did I say, Chris, 10.43 or something. So like next to nothing. And then I'm going to have that as available to look up stuff as I need to refresh my memory on stuff or whatever. But yes, if you buy it like straight up as a general search on Amazon, it first came up as like $40-$50. But if you go into the used book side of things, you can find it available for much, much less. Right, Renee. So there is an audiobook version of it available on YouTube, but the narrated voice is terrible. $10.13. Yeah. So, and here's what I was talking with Chris about, is that if you guys are interested, so it's going to be dependent on interest, I would be willing to do like a Facebook Messenger chat room, or we can make a room in the group even, to where it allows, like, I think it's like 8 people in at a time in the group itself. But if you go in through Messenger, you can have an untold number. However, in the group you can record it, but in Messenger you can't. So once I get the book of me reading a chapter out loud every week, and then us like having a discussion group about it, if that's something anyone would be interested in doing. And that way not everybody has to go out and buy it if you're interested. However, you don't have to listen to that horrible electronic British old man voice narrating it either. Can you please? Thank you. Wasn't there a new one that was good, or did I dream that? That's what we just discovered yesterday, Tanya, is that the new good one, their YouTube channel was removed. So I'm guessing there might have been copyright infringement stuff that went on, and they got taken down. So it's no longer available. Got my Kindle for $20 at a pawn shop. That's how much they are in pawn shops. Wow. So that's kind of what I have thought of doing. And if you do have the book already, well, you can read along, or, again, I would be reading the chapter out loud, and then we could have a discussion group about it. Oh no, Lori, this is really monotonous and boring old man British voice, and it's a computer voice. So it's not a real old man who has a British accent. Exactly, Stacia. It's an electronic voice, so it trashes everyday words and mispronounces and butchers them. It's very monotonous and hard to listen to. So hence me saying I would be willing to do either a group create a room in the group and then read a chapter, and then we can talk about it, or do it in Messenger, because then you can have an unlimited number of people come in and discuss it for those who are interested. But either way, I'm happy to do that if there's enough interest for it. Can you please? I love you, but please move along. Thank you. So the book should be here to me by, I think it said March 9th, but of course that's up to shipping delays and all that happy stuff that the post office has been great at lately. So we'll see how long it takes to reach me, but I'm happy to do that if people are interested. So I will put an announcement in the group, and then we can decide as a group how you would rather have it in the group in the room, or on a messenger call. In the messenger, an unlimited number of people could be in it, whereas in the group only like 8 people can come in. Yes, she's wanting me to go feed her, and that's why she's doing her pacing standing thing. Plus she wants attention. However, I can't see my notes or my tablet when she does that. So let me okay, so we're still good on battery on the other one. Yep, that's a little girl. So that was it for the 2 shows of Seth Speaks material. It's up to you guys now if you want me to go into the teachings of Michael or sit. But that was it, covering for the material from the original show's notes that I did. And again, once I get the book, breaking it down one chapter at a time would make it easier to process for one, and then it could be discussed to help, translate anything anyone doesn't understand or whatever. Just get a good discussion going about it. I always love a good discussion. So let me know if you want me to start the teachings of Michael stuff, and if not, we'll call it a night. And if so, I'll go ahead and do it up. It won't be another 2 hours before it's done if we do. Just heads up on that. And that was from episode 82 back in May of last year. I ran out of tuna and wet cat food. He liked the meatball I gave him. I'm sure. She doesn't like people food. She thinks she does, but not so much. She mostly licks the gravy and leaves the rest, and then Jake gets the leftovers. It's only like half a teaspoon of it, but he thinks it's a big deal. So teachings of Michael tonight, or save it? Let me know in chat. And Katie, are we still good?
Yes, we are.
We are good. Okay.
We're good.
I'm game. Sure, go ahead, Mom. Ooh, for 2 hours. Oh no, Gina, I actually started at 8 o'clock tonight, so it's already been going for 3 hours, but I'm okay to cover it if you guys are interested. I mean, those who aren't will leave, and it's that time of night for fur babies. I love it, but my fur babies time too. Okay, Lori, have a good night, and if you're interested, watch that part of the replay. Good night, James and Brenda. Have a wonderful rest of the night. I know you guys always leave this time of night too, so some people do, some people don't. Some people it's their bedtime or whatever, so that's fine. Never bothered by it. And like I said, this isn't going to be, because that was 2 shows into one of what we just finished, hence why it went on so long. So this is just one show that I covered back in last May. So I had noticed that the website completely changed now with this material. It used to be broken down into nice little, easy to understand information and took you step by step through everything. And now it seems like it was taken over by people who run it as a spiritual money-making train, who offer all kinds of different like classes and whatever, which, I think you could probably find the original information on the website, but it's kind of buried a little bit. I'll stay till he's okay, Tanya. Have a wonderful rest of the night, Lori. Thank you for coming while you did. And again, this is, longer than I normally go to, so. Her hair like sticking to my nose. Please excuse me. Not really picking my nose. Okay, so the teachings of Michael. Now, like Seth, was a group of soul beings who came through and just kind of gave them, I think Seth was probably a name they had in one of their lifetimes that they resonated with. And that's what they called the group of them who came through as a collective consciousness. And the teachings of Michael is really the same thing. So we're going to cover that. But just so you understand what's coming through here, came into message. If you're up to it, I'll be here watching you on YouTube. Awesome, Nancy. Thank you. We all know you stayed on because you knew I'd be running late. Exactly, Stacia, just for you. So who is Michael? So Michael is a collective of 1,050 souls, self-identified, and you'll hear how in a minute, who have been teachers, who become teachers on the other side. So once you finish, okay, so let me back this up a little bit. So the teachings of Michael are meant to teach about reincarnation, right? So it's teaching about what happens, what goes into reincarnation. So it's great information, but once you complete your reincarnation journey, which kind of follows, which this material will explain, it almost mimics like the developmental stages of a human life. So like you kind of go from being sparked out into the universe to where you reach kind of the equivalent of old age. And at that point, and explains what goes into it again in the material. But once you finish that, you can choose to, as a soul being, because a soul being is forever, right? Energy doesn't die. So you can choose to then go on to kind of go back to school, if you will. And in the Seth Speaks material, he talks about how he became a spirit guide, and that it took the equivalent of many of our lifetimes to learn how to do all that. But you can be a teacher, you can become a scribe, you can have different jobs, and you go to school to learn all that. And how long the schooling goes on for is dependent on what you're learning how to do, but that's an option to have on the other side. Once you finish coming back and you reach the end of that line of pretty much gaining all you can from reincarnation, then you can go on to assume a different role. So you can then become, a teacher for a while. You can become a guide. You can do all kinds of different stuff. So this is, a collective of 1,050 souls who have become teachers, and they communicate via channeling. Again, channeling is not just talking to a soul being. It is where that energy comes through you, and many times, at least, it can push your consciousness out of the way to where you have no memory of what's being said in true channeling. They can elect, or you can elect, to have memory of what gets said or partially be present for it, but they are actually in control speaking through you. It's their words that come through, not yours. So it's just people overuse and misuse that word nowadays. So they were first published in a book by Chelsea Quinn Yarbrough entitled Messages from Michael. Their fundamental message is one of the meaning of existence, that life itself is the only plan needed to move forward. Quote, all choices made are equally valid. So whatever choices you make in lifetime are valid because each choice contains its own learning experience, right? So I'll put my little bookmarker there. So differing from the channeled messages of Seth or even Abraham Speaks, or Abraham Hicks, sorry, getting it mixed up, which largely focuses on the principles of consciousness and the law of attraction. The Michael teachings focus on our own physical plane's exploration of spiritual growth of the soul and of the human condition. So Sally Joe is what she went by, Sarah Chambers. She lived from 1937 to 1998. She was an American teacher who first wrote the Michael teachings. In the 1970s, she and her husband belonged to a spiritual study group that the info came forward, first starting on a Ouija board. I know you guys feel about Ouija boards. We've talked about that, but they really are just another divination tool. If it goes wrong, it's because you're misusing it and not following the rules. So their groups consisted of professionals like doctors, lawyers, teachers, scientists, etc. And after Sarah left the group, she met Chelsea Quinn Yarbrough, who then followed up on what she had done and put it into a new book form, basically. So in the mid-1990s, she came back to channeling and allowed her name to be associated with the teachings of Michael, and until her death at the age of 61. John Climo, who is a professor of psychology and a parapsychologist, author, researched channeling, and he went on to say that the messages from the Michael book series helped make Michael channeling into one of the best known examples of channeling during the 1970s and early 80s, and noted that the similar events of the initial events that led to the Seth material. So this spiritual group met together, and so the messages started through on a Ouija board, much like the Seth material did, and then over time they didn't need the board anymore, and it started coming through the members. You can use a Ouija by yourself too, Karen. It's just, again, you got to follow the rules. I mean, if you do, then it's not anything negative because you know what you're doing and what principles to follow to put yourself in the space. So it's not an issue. But yeah, but you can use it by yourself. Lots of people do. So Climo reported that more than a dozen people in the San Francisco Bay Area claimed to channel Michael using a variety of methods, from automatic writing to speaking in a trance. No, they're not, Aaron. That's ignorance and then fear picked up from other people. Have you ever personally used a Ouija board, Aaron? Just curious. Or did you learn that it was a no-no from other people's stories and gain a fear of it through other people's stories? Just saying. I'm betting it's the second. So, try, but it didn't move. I seem to remember that using it alone is against the rule. No, it's actually not. I did a show in the hauntings group. It's now gone because I lost my original profile, but I do have the notes from it, but I did a show on the rules of the Ouija board. And if anyone's interested in Willows Bend, we can always put it on the voting table once I heal. And well, actually I wouldn't need to heal to present it, but it would be a shorter show. So we'd have to couple it with other things to fill up the time. Exactly, Aaron. You never used it. So your fear comes from hearing other people talk about it in their stories. So if you follow the rules, there isn't anything wrong with them when nothing goes wrong with them. I've seen lots of people use them and they have nothing but positive experiences because they don't allow anything negative to enter it. So it's more of just, well, I don't know if you were involved then, Renee, but yeah, there's 20 rules that you're supposed to follow or be aware of when using a Ouija. And if you do that and you know what you're doing, you don't have anything go wrong. It's those, but most people have this huge fear of it because of Hollywood, because of religious beliefs, being taught that they're evil and horrible and negative, and dangerous. And if someone has had a dangerous experience with it, it's because they weren't following the rules in order to use it correctly. We had it written down but lost it. Yeah, I mean, like you said, if people are interested, I can do the show in here in Willows Bend so that you guys can, or globally, people can learn the right way to use it. But I don't have them all memorized, Aaron, nor do I have the notes in front of me. But I'm saying it could be reviewed in another show. Yeah, there's like 20 rules. Most people don't know about the rules, and they think of it as a game, and that's where things go wrong. It gets misused and not approached properly or respected properly or disposed of properly if people freak out and want to get rid of it. So, yeah, if you know all that, then they are no different than using a pendulum or doing what I do to talk to soul beings. I don't get possessed. You've never seen me possessed, right? But you've seen me talk to soul beings how many times? So it's not, I'm a tool that talks to them. So yeah. And in the same way, pendulums and all the, tape recorders for EVPs, any tool to communicate. That's all it is. It's just we can add it to the list. It's just another tool to communicate. That's all. But people, and, even when I did the show, there are still people that, maintain their fear because of stories they've heard and their own religious beliefs or things they've been taught by other people's scary stories. But yeah, they don't have to be a bad thing. It's how you view it. And if you had a bad experience, it's because you didn't use it right or take it seriously. Exactly. Absolutely, Stacia. So, Jaker. So the teachings of Michael, what are they? So it uses a set of tools to help chart your incarnations to further your path. So it's kind of like, when I talk about this to other people, I renamed it kind of like choosing from kit and caboodles to put together your next life, but it's different categories. We used them when they came out when I was a kid. We had no problems. Yeah, and people approach it like it's a game, and it's really not a game. It is a tool for communication, and you have to respect the tool, So I find they use the internet too. Yeah, I've seen that happen before. But yeah, it's just a tool. But anyway, we're not talking about Ouija boards for tonight. So, and well, yeah, Erin, and that's what I'm saying. Your fear of it comes from other people, not your own experiences. So, what are the teachings of Michael? So, if you are personally happen to be interested in these, you can check out the website. And again, they're there, but it's kind of amidst other stuff. So you got to go into their menu to find this material, but it does have like what the initial teachings are. So if you go online and enter in a search for the teachings of Michael, it'll come up. There is a website, michaelteachings.com. The core of the teachings is to develop self-acceptance and tolerance for others. Michael calls the tools needed for this as overleaves. 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 Thank you, Sandy. Love you. So the overleaves describes various attributes of our personality and how we interact with the world around us. So Michael talks about referring to the journey of the soul beginning as it's cast from the Tao, which is their word for God, as God has been masculinized by our society. So he doesn't choose to use the word, or they don't choose to use the word God in describing the divine energy source, because God isn't he. It's been masculinized because of the society in which, in the culture in which it was written, was a patriarchal society, meaning run by men. And so, men made God a he. Not to say the women would have made it a she per se, but it's really, the yin and the yang. It's made up of both feminine, divine, sacred feminine, and masculine energy. So he calls it the Tao. So let me swallow my meds real quick. And anyone watching on YouTube who's new to me, this is just watered down iced tea I'm drinking. This is my own device for keeping my tea cold because I hate it warm. Is an old fuzzy, unmatched fuzzy sock and a little lunchbox ice pack stuck inside of it. It does sweat on the furniture, but it keeps it nice and cold for me. So, and helps insulate it. So he talks about your soul being a spark of consciousness that's released from the Tao into the physical world. And once in that, quote, you begin your reincarnated cycle, but that we choose a role or soul type and a set of overleaves, or as he said before, the overleaves are the various attributes of our personality and how we interact with the world around us, that give that life additional depth. The physical plane is filled with dualities, black and white, good and evil, up and down, those types of things. It does work really well. I kind of, when I got the cup I had before this one, I was like, gosh, what can I use to keep this warm? My old cooler wore out, and I could not find a replacement that fit it. So that night I was like, oh, wait a second, what about a fuzzy sock? I wonder if fuzz socks would work. So I got up and I had a few mismatched ones I would use for cleaning saved in my drawer. And so I tried it, and sure enough, it works just fine. What are you doing, Jake? Jaker. Hey. I see that I missed a piece of poop on the floor. It's on his bed edge. Hang on, guys. Sorry. What are you trying to do? Your little deer hoof thingy is gone. You keep looking for it, but it's been gone for like a month and a half, 2 months now, son. Let me pick this up for you really quick because it's yucky. I didn't see it there before. See, look, there's nothing under your bed. There's no deer hoof there. So, like, stop disrupting half the room with your blanket. It's not there. I threw it out because it was broken and it could cut you. You're going to have to wait till I go shopping to buy you another one. For those wondering, I once bought him, it's like a dog treat toy thing, but it was a deer hoof thing that was filled with like pumpkin mixture stuffed in it. But he liked it. So when he gets bored, and at one point when he got as much of it out that he could, I scooped the rest out, mixed it with peanut butter, and put it back in, and stuffed it, filled it again. Loved it. But then he chewed the hoof itself, started getting broken and stuff and jaggedy. So I didn't want him to cut himself, so threw it out. Socks are multifunctional. I used it one time as a pot holder. Well, exactly. They're multifunctional, and you end up. I used to wear them all the time, and sometimes one would get a hole in it or whatever, and I'd save the other one for whatever, and came in handy. So I got a bunch of them over there now. Okay, so yes, yin and yang is another. It's a physical plane filled with dualities, and so according to Michael, there's 7 roles or soul types that we can choose from, and those roles are the blueprints of our primary way of being in that life. Can I help you with something? I'm so sorry if that's in your way, Your Majesty. But you know what? I need too many places to put that right now where it won't fall. So if you don't hit the pillow underneath your head with it, it should be okay. Well, I stopped wearing them, so I have a whole bunch of them. And that's what every year my daughter get me a big pack of them, so I have a lot. I just hope it was clean. Picturing you ripping your socks off your foot and using them. So what are the 7 roles that Michael was talking about that go into our primary way of being in that life? So the first one is the role that we choose. These are the roles we choose to occupy that make us who we are each lifetime. So like in this lifetime, whilst I occupy many different hats that I wear, I mainly am a teacher, right? And that seems to be what I'm good at, and helping people emotionally and spiritually and to learn and grow. And so that's one of the roles I occupy here, right? So one of them, the first one is servers and priests. Are you okay? Like, seriously, dude. Let me move my notebook, and I can move this over here. And that way, you're not going to knock it over and make a gigantic mess for me to clean up. Because goodness gracious, Jake, you've been the star of tonight's show. Okay, try this again. So the first role that you can choose, now these are all different aspects of who you can be in each lifetime that you can pick from. Karen, mine was dirty, but I was desperate. It's making lasagna and I didn't want it to burn. Didn't you plan ahead? He's very cute and he does have a very sweet face. You're right. He's over on that side, isn't he? And just tucked in. All right. So the first one. Hi, Christopher. How are you? So the first one is servers and priests. Of course I am. Exactly. So that role is they are aligned with their inspirational access and dedicate themselves to service and spiritual evolution of the soul and the physical needs of the world. So they're here to help people through service, and they're priests that help through religious teachings. The second is artisans and sages. Didn't affect you yet, Christopher. Too soon yet, honey. I'm laughing from the image. So artisans and sages, they are aligned with the expression access and are devoted to expression, and the artisan through creativity, and the sage is through communication. Warriors and kings, number 3, are aligned with the action axis and are the great mobilizers in a society. They express themselves, their nature, by taking action, right? So they're the doers. Scholars, they are neutral and assimilators of knowledge. They are profoundly curious. They document experiences that interest them, which is kind of also what I do, right? Through all the research I do and stuff. So he says that we all choose one of the 7 goals for a life, which are: first one, reevaluation; 2, growth; 3, discrimination; 4, acceptance; 5, submissiveness; 6, dominance; or 7, flow. Your goal is what it all means, like the theme of your life and what you're going to be doing in that life. So, sometimes we spend our life reevaluating our purpose, or we are of a discriminating type who is prejudiced and against everything and everyone, or you have a submissive personality or dominant personality, or you just roll with it, right? We also choose one of 7 modes. Now you're seeing here too, where the number 7 is a sacred number, because all of these things have 7 different aspects to them. So the different modes that we can choose is 1, being reserved; 2 is passion; 3 is power; 4, perseverance; 4 is perseverance; 5 is caution; 6, aggression; and 7 is observation. I hope it doesn't. If it does, it typically just 2 days. Well, hopefully it doesn't too, but he just got it this afternoon, so he wouldn't be feeling much right yet. So these govern how we approach your life and live our life. We also choose one of 7 attitudes, 1 being Stoics, 2 being spiritualists, 3 being skeptics, 4 idealists, 5 cynics, 6 realists, or 7 being a pragmatist. The attitude is the overall outlook on your life. So as you're seeing, these are all different parts that go into one person of the next life you're going to live. And so each of these 7 sections are, you choose one from each topic in order to create the personality of the lifetime you're going to live next time around. So he goes on to talk about the centers, and these regulate how we react to the world around us. So the 7 centers are, the number 7 has been coming up crazy for me lately. Well, it's a sacred number. There is a numerology section under the guide section or tab underneath the group photo in the Willows Bend. It's a resource library in there. I broke it up into topics to make it easy for everybody. So there is a numerology section in there that you can look up the meanings to different numbers. And again, I didn't make that resource library for me. It's for the members. I'm nice like that. So the 7 centers regulate how we react to the world around us. And those 7 centers are emotions; 2 is intellectual; 3 is moving; 4 is physical; 5 is higher emotion; 6 is higher intellectual. And the higher centers are transformation. So you're going to be transforming yourself. Yeah, there's like spiritual stuff. There is numerology. There's divination. There is gemstones and crystals, herbology. There's what else is in there? Witchcraft, witchery things. A little bit of everything. The next thing you choose is chief fears. These are persistent obstacles in your life that you have to work through and encounter in each lifetime. So the first one is self-deprecation, which means that, you kind of deprive yourself of things, put yourself down, so forth. 2 is arrogance. 3, self-destruction. 4 is greed. 5 is martyrdom. where you kind of put yourself up to a pedestal, sacrifice myself for the greater good. My death will make it all worthwhile. That's kind of being a martyr. Impatience or stubbornness. Akashic records is where, Aaron? And the chief fears? And the Akashic records is just kind of a name for the storage space of where our past lives are kept. It's not an actual library. It's more like a filing system that each person, because each person has their own Akashic record. It's a list of all the different the memories of each lifetime you've ever lived, but it's not a place that everybody's lifetimes are all kept together in one space, as far as I know of. At least I never heard about it, but it's not. You are your own library, Aaron. You are the library of the memories of your past lives. Each person is their own Akashic record, really. You are able to access your own past lives. So, the chief fears are chronic phobias that are generated by the false personality that comes on in your late teen years and are the only overleaf that can be changed or eliminated, though it takes mad work. It's similar to the Bible's 7 deadly sins. So you can't overcome those things and problems in your life. And it comes about at a time when, you're still growing and deciding who you're going to be within the world. And, that kind of idea that, oh, everybody's watching me and what I'm doing. And, that all the focus is on me when nobody's paying attention. But a lot of teenagers feel like they are. And, you see a lot of those attributes come out in teenagers with the impatience, the stubbornness, the martyrdom. All of those come out in teen years, and they can be worked through and gotten rid of. But if you don't, well, you're going to carry them the rest of your life. So now Michael also does work on the soul age via charts and etc. So in other words, like, you can, for a fee, and it's not cheap, you can pay to get a chart made that's supposed to be channeled from the teachings of Michael, like the Michael Collective of Soul Beings can give you a chart reading of your soul and help you learn about your own soul's information. But like I said, it's not cheap. So the soul age charts the growth of a person that they've attained during their many different incarnations. The number of lives lived aren't as important as the spiritual development gained, and one's age isn't any better than any other. Now, I hear this all the time, that people, oh, I'm an old soul and I've got to be an old soul, more because they're tired of life being the way it is and don't want to get up off their butts and make it change for themselves. And they make constant excuses to not making changes to make things better, or they're not willing to seek help to have it change. So they sit and bemoan that, and I'm such an old soul and I'm just tired of it, I'm ready to have it be over with. Well, that has nothing to do with how old you are. That would fall more into one of these attributes I've been going over, that you chose to feel that way in this lifetime, and it's part of your personality because of the lessons you stand to gain from it. But lots of people don't stop to actually take the lessons they can from it, and instead, they just stay stuck in victim consciousness instead of making things better. So the 5 soul ages that you go through from, again, like you said, you're sparked out of the divine consciousness into the universe. And again, they really kind of mimic the stages of development that a human goes through. So number 1 is the infant soul. So it deals with issues of survival. Life experiences at this level is primitive and leans towards not having my pages sticking together. Leans towards rituals and customs of tribal cultures, They're usually incarnate near the equator, where the temperatures allow them to thrive without modern shelter. So, in other words, a lot of the beings who reincarnate early on in their experiences may incarnate into more tribal cultures because they stand to learn like the basics of survival skills. And so a lot of those tribal cultures live near the equator. It's kind of saying that all these different things, that each of them along the way are, he gives like the different stages of the soul and where you're likely to find those personality types at. So number 2 is baby souls, and they have a need for structure and tend to live according to beliefs based on dogma like religion. It's all about following and enforcing the rules. Often in Middle Eastern areas of the world or small town life, a lot of people who are in these baby soul stage live in very small towns, and they kind of stay small minded in their belief systems, and they let their religious doctrine be the end all be all say all on their life to it. And those are the people that don't ever achieve having their awakening to understand that that's not all there is to the world. So that's an example of that. Number 3 is young souls. So these are success oriented. Let me move this because I don't know my double check if that's moving, unless you guys are just quiet and listening. Okay. Young souls are success oriented and all about winning at all costs. The more wealth and power and esteem that you have, the better off you're going to be. And a lot of types of people can be in Japan, China, Israel, Germany, Saudi Arabia, Australia, and the United States. It's those people who are hyper focused on like having cha-ching, money, money, money. It's all about materialistic wealth and success. And that equaling power and having your self-esteem is hinged upon everybody loving you and having all the money in the world and having all the fancy cars and a fancy house to define who you are. So that would be a young soul. And you might find that you identify with one of these yourself in this life. In listening, thank you. Karen's drinking. My loud mouth is back. Sandy's drinking too, or she's saying cheers to you. Nancy's here. Okay. Yeah, sometimes because chat has frozen, if it doesn't move after a few minutes, I check it to be sure it's still, you guys are still with me. Number 4 is mature souls, and they gravitate toward emotional connection and at times drama. They have a drive for community and deeper bonds. And many of them can be found in Italy, Greece, England, and parts of Mexico. Now, this is not a universal thing that all the people who fall into that category are in those locations, but that could be a narcissist too. Yes, it could be. Yes, but it could, because for narcissists, it's all about the power and control over somebody else. And their self-esteem, underneath it all, they are very insecure people, but they want toys to make them, look bigger in other people's eyes by the more I have, the better off I am. But underneath it, they're very insecure little people. So number 5 is old souls. Now, this is the true meaning of old souls, not just because you're tired of life as it is and you're stuck you're in a rut and you don't want to do anything about it for yourself. This is what he says is the actual definition of being an old soul, is that they seek the larger perspective of life, and you have less interest in materialistic things. They've detached from emotional turmoil, and they favor a live and let live approach to your life. Although quite competent, they're out of touch with the mainstream world and lean toward an interest in spiritual growth. They don't come into awareness of their soul age until around 35. I would say I'm kind of in that area, because that kind of describes me. Yes, I've met plenty of those type of people over the years. Well, even at time in your earlier years when we first connected, Aaron, you very much were in that place. There's a license plate that says the one with the biggest toys wins. Exactly. It's that mentality of that being successful is having that big mansion on the hill with 6 cars in the driveway and all the money in the world and all that. And that's not what being a success is. And so as you develop as a soul being, you materialistic things become less important to you. Like the old soul definition, that really totally describes me, that I seek a larger perspective of life, and that I am more detached from, I don't do drama, I run from drama, and I very much have a live and let live approach to things. And whilst I'm aware of the mainstream, I'm not keeping up with it by any means. And I lean toward, spiritual growth, which I'm definitely all of that. So, and I, didn't come into my full gifts until after 40. So you think you're in that category? Yeah. Now the soul age levels, each soul age has 7 levels of development that must be completed before graduating to the next level. Typically, it takes 3 lifetimes to complete each one, sometimes more or less depending on the person. So you might have 3 lifetimes in each one of those stages before you level up to the next stage. Someone once told me that they thought that I was going to be leveling up after this lifetime, and I might be. And I'm not sure what I would choose to be after that, what I would go on to be, but maybe a spirit guide. I don't know. I like when people label themselves, lets me know to stay away, right? I think you're an old soul. Aaron says, yes, I'm so happy to get away from those types of people, even if they were family members. I'm better without them trying to control me. It makes me bend to their will too. I mean, to a degree that you do still look at things that way, Aaron, and you probably always will in this lifetime, and that's okay. You're not going to completely get away from that, because that is a life stage or a soul stage that this is one of the lifetimes you're living in that stage. So you have to go through those lifetimes in order to evolve and level up to the next space. I listen to you like my sister Donna. You're beautiful, helps me so much. Thank you, Gina. That's very kind of you. Damn it, I know this is another first stage. With such negative types, you help. Thank you, Gina. Well, and that's, again, you need to evaluate it for yourself of what stage you think you're in, but that is the actual definition of an old soul. It's not just because you're in a rut and you're tired of life and things being the way it is out there. You're also, those types of people who view it that way are not willing to get off their ass and to make it different. And they sit and bitch and moan about everything and how miserable they are, and oftentimes deal with depression a lot, and they get stuck. And they're not willing to do anything to help themselves move past it. And that's just the type of soul age they're in. And again, he says that it takes about 3 lifetimes to complete each stage. Can be more or less, depending on, what you learned each lifetime. So he goes on to the different life stages, which is internal monads, he calls them. He says it's similar to a rite of passage, a series of life lessons marked by 7 major transitional points during the time. First being birth, second is early childhood, third is late adolescence, fourth is midlife, 5 is life review, 6 is dying, and 7 is death. One of Michael's most quoted things is, all is choice, end quote. And you choose what you're going to have in your next life. And every being has free will with those choices. And you make your soul contract based on what you need as a soul being to evolve. Not anybody else's agenda, not anybody else's say so. You do what you need for your soul to keep moving through whatever stage you're in, so that you can learn more, grow more, and to keep evolving until you reach the final stage. And then from there, you can choose to stop reincarnating. I mean, you can still come back in a lifetime if you want. It's not like written in stone that you can't. It's just that it's more like, you kind of have gained all you can from the experience. You may choose to come back because you enjoy it, but you don't you're not kind of like needing to come back. Like you kind of gain what you can, and you might go back because you would like a certain existence somewhere in a certain dimension of being, but you don't have to. Sure, Aaron, you can, and that's to you what's important. And so that is the soul age you're in, is where materialistic things and wealth are what you define yourself as. For you to be successful is being rich and famous. And that's not what true success is, but you haven't learned that yet. So nothing I say is going to impact that, which is why I stopped, trying to show you that aspect of yourself. I can't change that about you. I can't change your soul age. It's a life that you're leading. So you're going through that. You know what I mean? So that's part of your process that you're in. And I can either help you understand it, and that's the most I can do. So I would say that particular stage is where you are in. Is which stage was it? Let's see. So I would say you're a young soul stage that are success oriented, all about winning at all costs. The more wealth and power equals your own self-esteem, and that's just kind of how you are. I'd rather be happy than have material wealth. Exactly, Nancy. I think I needed to learn an awful lot this life. You very well could have, Sandy, but you set it up to be what you learned. No, I don't want to be famous either, Karen. I mean, while it can be mind-blowing, if Katie told me how many people listened to my last show or this show after it's over with across all, globally, I'd be like, holy cow, that many people paid attention to what I was saying. I might be surprised by that, but it's not my drive for doing it. It's more like, great, I reached that many people to help them, but it's not an ego thing. Less is more, right? Used to sing when I was in middle school. It's pretty good too. So those are the different life stages that you have: birth, early childhood, late adolescence, midlife, life review, dying, and death. And one of Michael's most quoted things is all is choice. Everybody has free will. A false personality. So this is defined as its fabricated part of self, a distorted sculpture that you chip away at that bears little resemblance to your true life. It's like a lie you tell yourself every day that feeds off of the justification you give it. There were 3,000 pages of original transcripts from the original group in Oakland, California. Just be aware of that they're not all like, this isn't by any means all the material. Keep your gifts, Aaron. Well, what did Karen say about being rich and famous? So Michael also used the word icon, IKON, and it means a label we unconsciously attach to someone as a way to characterize them in our own minds. And it can be flattering or derogatory or even neutral. And okay. I think that was a note I used for myself when I first did this show. I must have had examples of one of the transcripts from one of the sessions that they did, where they brought stuff through. I don't have that now because I didn't realize that was in my notes. So the Michael Teachings have a Facebook page as well that can be followed, called Michael Teachings. And again, there is a website for it. It is offering services, but I think, how you have kind of like Facebook does, where you get like those 3 little bar lines in the corner. You click on that, and in there it goes into more in detail of the introduction to the material, which is kind of like this stuff, and goes more in depth with it, and may answer additional questions you might have. But that kind of is all I presented in the basic material, since I did read the original transcripts originally, but I don't have them now. So that's at least laying the foundation to help you understand what we put into creating the next life we're going to lead. And so each soul being collective that has come through to teach us more about our soul, because we kind of blank all that out and wipe our memories before coming back. Because again, if you have all the answers from the other side, what are you going to learn from having the experience of this lifetime, right? You're not going to learn anything, because you already have all the answers, and hence you already understand the meaning of all the experiences. And so there's no sense going through it. You're going through the motions essentially at that point. So we wipe our memories clean so that, as we go into that life, we can experience it from ground zero neutrality and not be influenced by what we already have learned or know from before times. So whilst you can, again, every person has the capability to see your past lives, it's more of a choice. Shook that Etch-a-Sketch. Yeah, I lost a lot of my singing voice from all the times I've had laryngitis through the years. Not that I was a great singer, but I lost more of a capability to sing than what I used to have. Hey, Terry. So, whereas the Seth Speaks material gave us a broad view of the soul as its own being and how it interplays with our own reality. The teachings of Michael taught about reincarnation, and in the Abraham Hicks stuff, that is channeled through a woman named Esther Hicks, and she's the one who gave them the name Abraham, and they accepted that as fine. And her and her husband used to go on. They were labeled as motivational speakers, but really the whole thing that they were teaching about is the law of attraction and breaking it down to its simplest form for people to understand. So she would kind of take a moment to get into the right headspace to open the door to allow them to come through her, and using her language databases to bring forward that information. And there are a mad ton of YouTube videos about Abraham Hicks on YouTube they're kind of like, so what they used to do during their shows is they would bring one audience member in who had a question and sit them in a chair facing them. So their backs would be to the audience, so they weren't all like, worried about everybody watching them or whatever, and that they could have one-on-one attention with Abraham Hicks, and they could ask their question. Abraham would answer it to help them gain a better understanding of the law of attraction, how it works. So there's all those clips are listed under the Abraham Hicks channel, and they're broken down to 3 to 5 minutes each, and it gives you the title of what it's talking about. And a couple of them over time I've posted here and there into Willows Bend. I don't know if anyone's paid attention to them, but I put them in there to help people understand something better. But they're all online if anyone's interested in there. I'm curious what your feelings are about Chiron. I just read that Esther channeled this being as well. I haven't researched it yet. No, I've never heard of that being either, Stacia. What does that being deal with? Oh, I sing my heart out in my car, but I sound terrible doing it. Like I can't hit the notes I used to hit because of my voice. My voice box has been damaged. My vocal cords were damaged from all the laryngitis I've had over and over and over again through the years. So, yeah, what does Chiron bring information about? Just curious, because I've not ever heard of it. Well, sure, it makes you tired to travel and sing everywhere. Lee Carroll channels a being he calls Chiron. Okay, so then Esther Hicks channels it too? I've heard the name Lee Carroll before, but don't know of them personally. I'm familiar with the name. Yeah, I'd have to look it up. I've never heard of Chiron before, so I'm not sure what that is referencing it. Some of it's fascinating. There's a light worker's guide. Interesting. I like Lori Ladd, and one of her guides, she says, is on the Galactic Federation, and she puts out daily videos of messages she gets through, and always good stuff talking about how to deal with stuff that's going on in today's world and your own energy and so forth. And I respect what she brings through. He speaks of the duality of our experience here. Interesting. So it sounds like similar to some of the Seth Speaks material then. Yeah, I'll definitely have to check it out because I've never heard of Chiron before. Is it Cryon or Chiron? Because you both are spelling it differently. Yeah, I'll share stuff into Willows, Ben, if I find it, appropriate for the group or whatever. But I watch most of Lori Ladd's new videos. I do too, Chris. Lori Ladd's good. Chiron. Okay. Well, I will definitely look that up and see what it pertains to. You're both spelling it different. Okay, well, I'll run a search on both of them and see what I get back, or which one if they are the same being. Let me get a piece of paper, because I'm gonna forget it by the time I get off air, get everything picked up and put away. I will have forgotten it because that is the nature of my memory. So Chiron or Cryon. Okay. Yeah, no, I'll check it out, and if there is something of interest, I will post it in the group. But that's what I was thinking, Stacia, is that if one is correct over the other, it'll pull up the correct one for me in the search. So I'll get it either way. Oh, come on now. So Chris, because you were winner of the 100th episode reading that I gave away to mark our 100th episode, we talked about it the other day of what day. I'm kind of leaning towards Wednesday, if that would work for you, because tomorrow I'm probably going to, at least without a nap when I get home, be tired because it's going to be interrupting my schedule pretty well to get up, clean up, and get up early. I'm gonna have to go to bed a little bit earlier, but to get out, clean off my car before I go. That's funny. Well, at least you're catching it before it's posting. Oh, it is Cryon. Okay. Well, I wrote both down, so I'll remember the Cryon one. But yeah, Wednesday I'm thinking, because otherwise tomorrow, if I did it tomorrow, I would need a nap before I did it because I'll be tired. Chris, you won't get reading challenged. Reading challenge? What do you mean, Erin? Well, she won the 100th episode giveaway that you threw in a gift card for. I sent her that already, but she hadn't done her reading yet. So we talked about kind of doing it on a night when we're both feeling okay to do it. So, my autocorrect, I have a drunk guy that lives in my tablet that changes it all the time. Pain. So I will keep everybody posted on how my hand is doing as we get closer to next week's show. Again, I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, if she's going to take those infernal things out, which I think they'd probably be able to come out by now. It is getting red again and more sore, which means the stitches are not working well. The infection comes next. So it's going to hurt like hell to get them out too because of how she stitched it. But Oh well, we'll deal with it, right? So I'll let you guys know as far as topic goes, and if we need a vote, I'll throw up a poll into the Willows Bend on a topic to cover. Yeah, no, I mean, I it's gonna be hard, Renee, because I can't really use my right hand to help clean the snow off because of where the stitches are. They are lining this crease of my thumb, so that's where they had to sever the tendon in there. So, and my left shoulder is demolished from arthritis and the ligaments torn in 3 places in there. Ball joints gone. So either way, it's not going to be good. But there's nobody else to do it for me, so is what it is. Spell fuck. Damn it, Facebook. Congratulations, Chris. Okay. It does hurt, Nancy. And again, it's becoming inflamed from the stitches. I don't do well with letting dissolvable stitches get to the point of actually dissolving. So I'm thinking she's going to have to take it out. So thank you, Gina. But I will keep you guys posted. I'll throw up a poll in the group with the topics that people are interested in. If I am able to write enough to do the research, I won't know till we get closer on how it's going to be doing. I don't write well with the modified way. Like I can write a short sentence before it starts bothering me the traditional way, but after that, yeah, it starts to hurt a lot. And the only other way to use the pen with my right hand is between those 2 fingers, which is really awkward and looks more like left-handed handwriting. I can write left-handed, but yeah, it's ugly. Lee Carroll works with Marilyn Harper now, and again, who channels Aradonda. Oh, interesting. Okay. Thank you, Stacia. Well, cool. So yeah, my schedule is, what's going to fall on me. So my next appearance on Soma Fusion will be on Sunday night as I help co-host Goddesses and Devils. We have no idea of the topic till like the night before when I press Katie for it's a new topic of what it's going to be to make the event notices for everybody. And so I have a heads up.
We'll just wing it like we always do.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I said I won't know till we get there. But the night before, I'm kind of like, any idea of a topic this week? Here's what I got this idea, that idea. What do you think? And, we toss it around and think about it. But yeah. And so it'll be So this Friday, I will be in Beyond the Veil Facebook page for readings. And then that's 8 p.m. Eastern time on Facebook. Then Sunday is Goddesses and Devils on here on the Soma Fusion Network. And then Monday back in here for Willows Bend, 8 p.m. Eastern. I'm working. I'll let you know the work schedule. No worries, Gina. If you can make it, you can. If you can't, you can't. Love you too, Kim. Thanks for hanging out, sweetheart. And I have no idea, Kim, by the way, before in the last show, you kept saying, like, will you help me type of thing. And you didn't answer anybody's request as to what's going on. So have no idea what was wrong. If you remember what you were talking about, shoot me a message in Messenger, okay? And I'll see if it's something I can help you with. I have no idea otherwise. Yeah, we've done past shows on aliens, alien races, the Council of Five, all that stuff before, Karen. We do have a running list of topics that we did before my surgery. So I'll just do a poll of those topics. The alien stuff isn't so much the Goddesses and Devils topics. They're kind of open, but at the same time, more like teaching stuff and psychology based and so forth. So yeah, aliens would be more like Willows Bendy type of stuff. And so that's what you guys choose a topic for Willows Bend. Will do, Tanya. Yeah, I'm sure it'll be fine. That's my guess is what's going to happen is she'll kick the stitches out, which is fine by me. So, yeah, we've covered aliens before in here because you guys voted for it. So for any of the listeners out there or YouTube viewers, the Willows Bend members are who chooses the topics, and it's a majority vote rules vote. So that's what I'm referencing. Is we have a running list that we vote on every week normally, but we had to kind of suspend it because of my hand surgery, and I can't. Each show typically takes 4 to 6 hours worth of research, and I can't write that much right now till I heal more. So past shows it's been for the last couple weeks. Yes. The Ouija board topic is the notes are there, Erin. So yeah, we can throw that up to vote on. I mean, it seems like from tonight everybody's interested in it. But like I said, if I'm up to it, then I will post a poll if I'm up to the handwriting. You guys can all vote on it for next week's topic. Otherwise, I'll do what I've done the last 2 weeks and just piece together topics that we've covered a while back in order to have next week's show for the 2-hour mark. I mean, tonight we've gone almost 4 hours now. So yeah, you got double the pleasure tonight. So either way, I will keep everybody posted what the plan is for next week. But as always, it's usually something quite interesting. So yeah. But I'd have to pin it with something else, like maybe talking about the different divination tools that are out there or something, in order to have it be more than a half-hour long show or an hour-long show. But we'll figure it out, guys. I'll keep everybody posted as to what's what. And anybody who's interested, again, on Facebook, it's the Willows Bend, or I have my page Beyond the Veil as well. Yeah, I'm not pushing it, Chris, by any means. And that's why I said I wish I had a housework fairy and a dishwashing fairy to come in and do stuff for me, because, yeah, I haven't been able to keep up with it. Yep, we've covered runes before, too, although I suck at the pronunciations of them. And Tanya makes runes for anybody who's interested. She makes runes from stones that she finds in her creek behind her house, and she gets them tumbled, and yeah, she made me a set of witch runes, which are awesome, and regular runes as well. I wonder if I wore my plaque doctor's mask with a Ouija board at a random spot. Who would dare? You'd have to video it, Karen. Aliens and Ouija boards. That would be an interesting show night, wouldn't it? Yeah, we could always do the tools of divination. I'm like I said, it's you guys choose the topics. I don't. So, other than the last 2 weeks, but there's still topics that y'all chose along the way. So, with that, my lovelies, I want to thank everybody everywhere who has been listening in or watching on Facebook or YouTube to tonight's show for the Willows Bend. Too cold in the shop right now. I'm surprised you don't have a heater out there. Yes, absolutely, Stacia, you can. Yep, dowsing rods are interesting. So thank you all for listening to Willows Bend on Soma Fusion Network. Runes are used for divination. It's a divination tool, Erin. So they have symbols on them that once thrown or chosen, they mean different things. So it's just another divination tool. So again, you can connect with Soma Fusion via their Facebook page. You can connect online on the web at soma-fusion.com. And you can also connect on the YouTube channel at Soma Fusion on there as well. And like and subscribe to all of the above. We appreciate the support. And so you can find me in here and in the Facebook group as well. So you guys are very, very welcome. Love all of you. And thank you all for your time and energy and patience in listening to an extra long show tonight. So many blessings to everybody out there. You all have a wonderful night. Stay well, take care of each other, and yeah, make good choices. So have a great night, guys. Thank you.